Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you're watching in the world, welcome along to the finale of the Cammus Community Cup. Prizes up for grabs for drivers that finish inside of the top three in the championships. And to finish it off, we've got a 2.4-hour race around the circuit of the Americas. Double points will spice up the championship no matter how you frame it. My name is Kieran McGinley, and I'm delighted to be joining Dylan Pick. Dylan, great to be working alongside you. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's the final round of the championship. We've had 4 brilliant prior rounds, and now we're here to the climax of it, and it's all up for grabs.
I mean, it's been quite a journey so far for our drivers. Dylan, if you can give us, to those who are joining us, and it's never a bad time to join at the season finale, for those who've missed out, give us a review, a quick snippet of what we've missed.
We've had 4 brilliant previous rounds, 2 60 minutes, 2 90 minutes. We started off the season at Bathurst with a brilliant 1-hour sprint race around the beautiful Mount Panorama Circuit, which was ended up being won by Igor Ogonodikov with a brilliant freeway battle between him, Bykov and Robbie Stapleford, our current championship leader. Then we went to Watkins Glen with a bit of a messy race, but brilliant nonetheless, which was then won by Tinker van der Velde after a post-race penalty to his teammate Darren McCormack dropped him down to second. Then Snetterton, the very tricky circuit in Norfolk in the UK. Robbie Stapleford finally got his maiden race win in the season after a brilliant strategy, outclassed everyone. And then last week, whilst we was at Indy for the Indy road course, it was won by Isaac Price in a very rainy and topsy-turvy race.
Yeah, I mean, just in that calendar alone, you know, you've got the likes of Bathurst, which is absolutely one of my favourite circuits wherever we go. And then you went to Snetterton as well, just to throw that into the mix. Watkins Glen, I mean, that's quite a variety of circuits to be throwing at our drivers. It's really putting them through their paces this season.
Yeah, I think every track suited a different car, suited different drivers, suited different skill sets and different strategies as well, with some races being heavy on tyres, some races being heavy on fuels, and the difference in distances and lengths of the race has also thrown a bit of a challenge to the drivers, and it's made for an interesting spectacle of a season, and I've thoroughly loved it.
And of course, we've got 2.4 hours coming up here at the circuit of the Americas, and we're talking about drivers already feeding back that the track limits are going to be particularly ones to watch here tonight. That could be an interesting one, considering the fact that the circuit of the Americas over the years has been patchy at consistent track limits, so that might be one for the drivers to be watching out for.
It's over track limits through the season. We've had a few drivers, but the penalty is not one you're really wanting, isn't it? A drive for or stop go 30, but nonetheless, it's quite a harsh penalty to be getting, and a track that is not easy when it comes to track limits penalties. It's going to keep the drivers with their eyes out for the whole 3 hours we've got.
Absolutely. And the circuit of the Americas, right in the heart of Texas, a fantastic place that's pretty much built to try and go side by side as much as possible, affectionately known as COTA, and pretty much there to accommodate around 14,000 people in an amphitheatre around the circuit, which is fantastic to see. And it was first proposed back in July 2010, so it's a relatively new circuit in terms of where it is and how big of the track it has become, and it's quickly become one of the circuits to be racing at, Dylan.
Yeah, it's held a lot of major series. It's a staple on the F1 calendar now. It used to hold WEC, and it's now got a few races in the GT America series, so it's becoming one of the more predominant modern circuits in modern day motorsport, which is a brilliant spectacle for the motor racing. It's perfect for all sorts, and it's going to be brilliant for us tonight.
Yeah, MotoGP has made it its home. IMSA, you've got Moto America, NASCAR have been here as well as the supercars in Australia. IndyCar has been here as well, so it has quickly become a staple for some of the top standards of motorsport. And as of course you said, Formula One and its feeder series as well have visited this track to really shape their mould around here. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one. We'll see how it all plays out. And here we are then, just coming towards the end of qualifying. And Dylan, from a sort of driver's perspective, with track limits going to be policed tonight, as much as we heard from the drivers as we ride on board with Eric Del Fante in the Italian job car, a great name of course. 2 minutes 4.2 from him so far puts him provisional pole position as he makes his way in towards the final corner at turn 20. I mean, Dylan, this is a perfect opportunity to take us through a lap.
Indeed it is. So Eric Delfante on the run up towards turn 1. It's a very steep uphill which might cause, it's very wide as well, so going to cause some problems at turn 1 and lap 1, but you can take multiple lines through. We've seen a few drivers in practice drifting into the middle like Eric Delfante did, but a bit earlier you can take that really wide line, really tight line because of the width of turn 1, but now through the S's down 2, 3 and 4, trying to keep it as pinned as you'd like. It's a bit difficult when through 3 flat now, a bit of a lift off. Now then you're getting in through 5 and 6, getting onto the brakes a bit now, not too much as it just sweeps around before 7 and 8, and then you're rising uphill again towards turn 10, 11, a prime overtaking spot, the hairpin at turn 11 for the long back straight. As Eric Delfante trying to keep it as close to the track limits as possible. He's doing a very good job there. Brilliant exit out of turn 9 on the throttle, kink at turn 10, downhill we go towards the hairpin at 11 for the massive back straight, which is probably going to be the best chance of an overtake in this race. Gets it very nicely done. They probably could have been a bit earlier on the throttle, but you don't want to spin the rear out too much with 4.5 minutes left on the clock. No time for mistakes really, with qualifying always being as close as it is. He's picking a bit of a toe as well from the car ahead, so he's going to be liking that one. Riding the curve in towards turn 12 at the hairpin now with Tricky Complex. Follows turn 12 at 13 and 14. This is going to be a place to watch out for track limits and side-by-side action. Probably going to be a bit of controversy, as it always has been. It's all a bit deep there for Eric Delfante, but saves it nicely and swings it round for turn 14. And yes, the back marker does get out of the way then as he sweeps in for 15, tightens up nicely to the apex. Brilliant exit again now to the multi-apex, 16, 17 and 18. We've had a few famous moments here in motorsport, as well as Eric Delfante tries to keep it as pinned as possible. Little lift in through 16 and now up towards the final 2 turns. Turn 19, the exit of here, watch out for track limits as he drifts wide, catching the curb here. And I think he may have got track limits as he dives into the pit lane there.
That's a shame he did get to complete that back there, but nevertheless, that is a good tour of the circuit. Very well done there, Dylan. Very well done.
I'm impressed with myself.
I'm impressed with you too. It's fantastic. Yes, of course, it's a circuit with a lot of undulation as well, so trying to find the right setup as we're watching on Aaron Walker in the Inception Racing McLaren, the number 99 out there. It's a track that has these high-speed S's, as you see. Aaron Walker slightly caught out there and has to take to that infield there. You're launched into turn 1, as you said, very much rising up the hill. Helps with the braking zone, of course. Then you're having to go down the hill towards turn 2. You're thrown into the S's, which just get tighter and tighter. Then start to rise up the hill as well. So it's not an easy circuit to actually get a hold of in terms of trying to get used to the circuit and trying to find an ideal setup for the car.
It's very tricky, but I'm sure the drivers have had a lot of experience, even though this is a relatively new circuit to ACC. The drivers have probably been in other sims and have the practice around and at least know the track well enough to have an idea and get some practice in, because these are professionals, it's what they do. But it's one of those tracks with how difficult it can be, especially with the S's and the undulation, that when you get it right, it is a very rewarding track when you feel it, when you just nail the throttle out of certain corners. So it's one of those as well, if you get a good lap in qualifying, you can very much carry the momentum, because it's one of those feel-good circuits if you nail it.
Feel-good circuit. I like that. I like that analogy. I'm going to have to steal that off you, Dylan. We see Chris Pidgebeck then with the VR kit as well, totally immersed in that one. 2.4 hours plus qualifying, plus a little bit of practice as well with a full VR rig. I mean, all credit to him. That's something I don't think I've got used to yet. I mean, I've had a dabble in VR, but not to the extent that Chris is going to go through tonight.
No, it's something we've touched on every now and again through the season, as a lot of drivers are using VR, and they've also had nearly 10 minutes extra in qualifying, because we thought we'd be generous, because it was a 3-hour race, so it would be ever so kind. But yeah, I've always said, David Christie, the commentator who's on the prior 4 rounds, he races in VR, and it's always been a question of me to him, of how much it must strain your neck, because those VRs are not light things. A lot of them can be quite heavy, especially the Oculus Quest 2, if any of them use it. I know that is prone to be quite heavy and strainful on your neck, even if you're using it for just 5 minutes. So it's credit to the drivers, and I'm sure they're used to it because they use it a lot for a lot of races, but it must get tiring at some point on their neck.
Yeah, you've really got to get used to it, got to train yourself as well, as we see Isaac Price here, currently 5th in the championship, and of course he's on a fast lap at the moment, heading his way now down in towards the braking zone at turn 12. So currently 3rd in qualifying as it stands, 5th in the championship with double points on the line. He does need to give himself the best opportunity. He's currently on 57 points, I do believe, going into tonight's racing action. And wait and see, because 60 points up for grabs for our race winner in the double point race tonight, as Isaac now makes his way in through this long treble right-hander of 16, of 17 and of 18. It's really how much speed you dare take through the treble right-hander before we make our way in towards turn 19 with that little bit of tarmac on the right-hand side. Very tempting to take, but just make sure you don't push the limits. Through in towards the final corner where you start to climb as the checkered flag is now displayed on the start-finish line. Here comes Isaac Price then across the line, and he does set a 2:04.847, and he's 0.005 of a second off of his own best time. So that's a tough one to take for him, but he will stay in third place. Petrocini is into the pit, so no chance of him trying to grab pole position. Aidan Walsingham is making his way through the final three corners in the Visceral Esports McLaren, the highest placed McLaren so far, as he makes his way now in towards the final two corners, about a tenth up in the previous sector. Now makes his way through to complete the lap and on towards turn 20, the final corner. Really trail braking to try and find that apex. Back onto the power he goes. A bit twitchy on the exit, but I'm not sure he'll mind if it gets him a faster lap, which it does. Up to fifth place goes Walsingham in the number 188. And whilst qualifying comes to an end, it's looking pretty good for one Eric Del Fante at the moment, because he's third in the championship standings. And speaking of championship standings, let's remind you of how they look. Robbie Stableford at the top there on 95. Igor Ogorodnikov. Thank you, Dylan. In second place. Eric Del Fante is in third. Trevor Wenham in fourth. Isaac Price in fifth, with Aidan Walsingham in sixth. Oneko in seventh. Darren McCormack in eighth. Matteo Petrocini in ninth, and Luke Whitehead rounds out the top 10 in the championship. And with double points on the line here, Dylan, it really is a case of anyone inside the top 8 really does have a strong chance of finishing not only in the top 3, but walking away with the win itself.
Yeah, but just be a bit of a killer to that one. There's only 6 of the top 8 are racing. The championship leader, Robbie Stableford, and Dara McCormack down in 8th. Racing tonight, which is a big kick to the stomach for him, because Robbie Stableford, he's leading the championship by 15 points. Yes, it's double points, but he's been flawless all season, and it's a real shame someone that was in the prime seat to win some of the prizes that we have on offer, which we'll get into a little later into the race. So he's not really going to be in for one of them. It basically gives Igor Ogorodnikov the prime seat to win everything here. And then there's also Isaac Price, who's coming off at the back of a win last week, so he's going to be carrying that momentum. And Eric Del Fante, brilliant qualifying. He's been flawless, but Eric Del Fante, he's got 3 pole positions, I believe, now out of the 5 races. He's been flawless in the one lap pace, but when it comes to the race pace, he falls off. And with this being the longest race we have, it's not looking good for him. So it's really, in my opinion, down to Ogorodnikov and Price.
Yeah, a showdown for sure with those double points on the line. We'll try and keep you up to date with the points and how they look at certain points in the race. And as you said, Dylan, there are those prizes on the line. The winner of the series will get themselves a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel. Second place, a Cammus pedal set. Third place, a Cammus pedal set as well. So it's all on the line for those prizes as well. I mean, to be walking away with an upgrade to your rig, it's not a bad way to do things, is it, Dylan?
Give the drivers something to aim for as well, so we might see maybe a bit more reckless moves going for, especially on the last lap where it's all on the table. It's going to be something special. I do believe having these prizes does give the drivers something to aim for, a bit more motivation to just keep your foot in a little bit more, especially when qualifying as well. Do you take this risk, pushing a bit harder? So I think having that added goal for the drivers makes it even more special.
Absolutely, as we're just rolling through our grid for tonight. Del Fante on pole position, Petrocini in second place, Price is in third, Ogorodnikov in fourth, Walsingham fifth, Mullard is in sixth place in the third placed Audi on the grid. And then it's Pippo in seventh place, Vanny in eighth, with Richardson in ninth, and Antamaki rounds off the top 10. Brophy in 11th, Coe in 12th, Walker in 13th place. Drake Cruz in 14th place. Nerola 15th with Drysdale in 16th place. Lenson in 17th with Zildzovic in 18th place. Vickers in 19th. Brown in 20th. And all on their own on the back row, number 43, 21st, Pinchbeck rounds off our 21 starters for tonight's race. Dylan, it's going to be a really interesting race with those double points, but who do you think can take this over the line in, roughly 2 hours' time?
It's so hard to call. My money would always be on Robbie Stableford, but he's not here today. Del Fante's on pole, but he's not been able to convert a pole. I don't think he's even converted a pole into a second place, so my money wouldn't be on him with his race pace looking lacking. Petrocchini, we've not seen the best from him. It would be nice to see him get up there, but I definitely think Isaac Price and Ogonodkov, because the BMWs, when it comes to race pace all season long, have been leaps and bounds above the rest of the field. We've had the Audis, especially at Snetterton, be very good in qualifying, but then get swamped in the race. So I think those two highest placed BMW drivers are probably going to be the ones to watch out for come the end of this 2.5 hours we've got on the clock.
That's all yet to come then, as the car's still on their jacks. Of course, they have to make sure they get into their cars before the timer runs out. Otherwise, they have to start from the pit lane. I do believe they'll get a formation lap before we get things started anyway, so we will see all sorts of tyre warming, brake warming, which is going to be very, very important heading up towards the, well, I would say mountain and the summit that is turn 1.
Yeah, it's also very wide as well. You expect to be seeing down the pack people going 4 wide. We even saw people going 4 wide at Snetterton of all places, so I'll definitely be going for it there. But going back to what you said, Isaac Price showed us in round 1 about not getting in your car and starting from the pit lane. He put it on pole that race and made that mistake, which is unfortunate for him, and if he loses the championship by a few points, he'll be kicking it from that mistake, but he had a brilliant comeback drive there nonetheless. But yeah, turn 1 is going to be interesting. Uphill, different levels of fuel in the car, different levels of tyre heat, and you're going to need to be aware of your surroundings. It was pitch black last week, and everyone got through fairly well with. It was very dark into a very tight turn 1, so the drivers do have the ability to look out, and they are checking their mirrors. So they are going to pay attention to their surroundings, but I don't think they're going to be taking too many risks, especially with it being a prolonged race.
I was going to say as well, just as we're nearing the formation lap for this race, is that you were saying at the sort of beginning of the broadcast that there seems to be cars that are strengths at certain circuits rather than others. But looking at the qualifying standings here, there doesn't seem to be a sort of what would you say, a favourite manufacturer in this race. Yes, it's an Audi 1-2, but you've also got Audis in 6th, in 7th, in 9th. You've got BMWs locking out the second row, but you've also got some in 8th, rounding off the top 10. You've got a McLaren of Walsingham up into the top 10, but no other McLarens in the top 10 either. It does seem to be a very varied field, and just seems to be about hitting the sweet spot in the setup.
Yeah, and looking at the nature of the track, it is very driver-based as well. You could have the best car for the circuit, but if you can't put together the lap yourself, because you can have the best machinery, but if you can't drive it, because this circuit is a beast, like we said, with things like the S's, the undulation, and also having to keep a pin through 16, 17, and 18 with those sort of things where it's not quite flat, but there's no distinct braking zone, so it is down to the drivers more, I think, rather than the car. So it's one of those tracks that does test for drivers, and we do find out who's really got that raw pace, and it's not the machinery that's giving them that extra few tenths.
And I think a little bit of a relief for the drivers is that early indications tell us that it's going to stay dry for the entire race. Now, let's see if that forecast is all but correct later on down the line. Imagine if in about 2 hours' time we just see some grey clouds descend onto the circuit. I never said that, obviously. I never said that. The drivers can't have a go at me for that. But anyway, forecast indicates everything will be dry, and Del Fante is on pole position for this race. And well, from as far as I can see, Dylan, there's no Stapleford. This is up for grabs for everyone else behind him in the championship.
Door is wide open, 2.5 hours on the clock, and like last week, I can't call this one. I bet would normally be on Robbie Stapleford. He's been the calm driver, he's been the one to really watch out for in the races. But now, I don't know who to call really. We've not Isaac Price, yes, he had a good race last week, but last week's race was something else. The guy that's been consistently up there week in, week out, Igor Ogonodkov, watch out for him. He's known for his aggression as well. We've seen him all season long be very aggressive, within the limits though, so in all credit to him. So he has that healthy balance, but I'm sure he'll be looking for a good start and some early moves up towards the crucial turn 1.
Indeed, as the cars now make their way onto the back straight down towards turn 12. As we gear up then for this 2.5 hour race. 2.5 race? No, just the one race of 2.5 hours here at the Circuit of the Americas. We're delighted that you could join us for the finale of the Cammus Community Cup, and we hope you enjoy the journey on the way. And we'll talk about prize draws later on down the line. We've got to get the first lap underway at the very least though, Dylan, and as we've already said, turn 1 could be interesting.
Yeah, not to say the least. We know we've got the likes of Orgonolikov, who is known to be aggressive. Isaac Price, he'll be looking for some vengeance, but he's got some good momentum as well from last week. Like I said, him winning, so I'm sure he's got some good confidence going into it. He's normally a very calm and collected driver as well. Despite all the errors he's had through his own doing, he's been able to pull him back and not really let him get bothered, so he's also someone that you could be looking for moves. Petrocini, we've not really seen him too much be this high up the grid, but Del Fante, he's been so calm under pressure. He's normally been losing in the pit lane. He's good at holding people back, and he's good at getting a good launch, as he's been here twice before, 2 races in a row. This is his 3rd race in a row on pole, I believe. So, Del Fante, my money's on him leading in towards turn 1 for a good portion of the race before there's any real pressure on him. So, it's all to play for, though. I can't really call it.
Well, the Italian job needs to be done today for Eric Del Fante in the Italian job Audi in the number 71. He's put the car on pole position and now will take formation up towards turn 20. He'll have the inside line heading up towards turn 1. He needs to get the apex, steal the apex away, and make sure no one else can challenge him down the inside on his right hand side going in towards turn 2. As he now lines up, the rest of the field will line up right behind him. All eyes then will be on the lights to get us underway here in Texas at the Circuit of the Americas for the finale of the Cammus Community Cup. Then eyes on the lights, they will go red, and any moment now we'll get this race underway. Still eyes on the lights, they go green, and we go racing in Texas then. Up towards turn 1 we go, and Eric Del Fante obviously has the inside line going in towards turn 1, but Isaac Price looking right up the inside, right up for this one then, as there's a bit of a bit of a traffic jam going in towards turn 1 there, to be expected, as Ogorodnikov falls slightly down to 4th place then, and Isaac Price trying to make his way up the order anyway, as we see then drivers make their way through those tightening S's then, as Del Fante leads from Price, who's now up into 2nd place. So a great start from Isaac Price to get himself up and early into the top 2. Petrocini in 3rd place, and then it's Ogorodnikov in 4th, Walsingham in 5th with Pippo 6th, Mullard in 7th, Richardson in 8th, Banny in 9th, and Antamaki rounding off the top 10. And Dylan, it does seem to be, drivers do seem to be going by the sentiment of you can't win the race on lap 1, but you can certainly lose it.
Yeah, a bit of a car park in towards turn 1 there, a lot of people crawling towards the apex, but Isaac Price very optimistic on a move with Petrocini. We saw Orgonolikov get a bit boxed in there and was under pressure from Aidan Walsingham, but held it nicely. Pippo's up well, and Barney as well. Antamachi's holding P10 as this is Petrocini trying to get his own back here on Isaac Price. This is something we've really not seen before, because the people that have been behind Del Fante have been Stapleford and Orgonolikov, normally work well together despite being in separate teams, of being very patient and just putting the pressure on the leader. But if Petrocini and Price are going to go at it here, this is then going to allow Orgonolikov and Walsingham. We know both of them very capable drivers. We've seen Orgonolikov win in Bathurst, and Del Fante, if the cars behind him start scrapping, as this is Barney under pressure from Oni Ko here through 16, 17 and 18, the multi-apex right-hander. So I think Del Fante is going to be enjoying the early lap 1 battle, as Price has got past Petrocini, it seems, on the timing screen. So if those two keep going, this is going to allow Del Fante to bridge ahead, which we've not seen so far. So it would be nice to see how Del Fante can deal with that as he's able to get a break.
Yeah, he's now 1.6 now ahead of Petrocchini, and meanwhile then Bani and Co are making their way now up towards turn 1 once again. Oneko up the inside in the McLaren trying to get the apex, but Bani will be on the outside. He can get the power down slightly earlier. He'll have the inside line for turn 2 as well, and he will hold on to that position, but that is drawing Antamaki in the BMW behind them into the battle as well. So Oneko goes from attacking the BMW in front of him to trying to just go a little bit defensive to the BMW behind. As see there, that's Oneko trying to just make sure he gets the elbows out slightly to Antamaki behind, make sure there's no way through. Walsingham meanwhile in P5 trying to chase down Ogorodnikov right up ahead of him, heading our way down in towards turn 11 and just trying a slightly different line. He'll obviously get a little bit of a tow as well from the BMW up ahead, and that's exactly what Walsingham will want in the Visceral Esports McLaren. But this is where the BMW, the grunt that it has, can help it keep ahead down the straights. But the McLaren in the slipstream looking to go down the inside, but he backs out of it. And this is a point here. The BMWs are so good in a straight line. There's only Co trying to go up the inside of Bani then in the other BMW. And this is the issue of trying to get past the BMWs. They've got some grunt down the straights.
Yeah, it was brilliant car control there by Oneko to just get it stopped in time whilst Bani was just shutting the door a bit there. Very clean racing from the pair of them. Very well managed, good clean racing, good battles. This is what we like to see. But yeah, like I said, this BMW has been brilliant in races with its top speed and its race pace overall has been a key as you look in the standings. Most of the people up there are driving the BMWs. Co gets very close to the back of Barney there. Can't quite find his way through as they come through the final sector at turn 19, a bit wide for Barney. That could be a track limit. Trying to peek away through, trying to now line up a good exit here from the final turn to get a run up towards that mountain view, so-called, up towards turn 1 as Del Fante puts in the fastest lap, and now is a 2.3 second lead from Petrocchini, and Isaac Price has been left in the mud a bit there by Petrocchini as well. As we go back to the front of the race, Del Fante is having a healthy lead and he is really looking forward to pull ahead here, and with the double points up for grabs, Ogonodikov being stuck in 4th isn't going to do him too good, and Ogonodikov's also ahead of Price in the standings, so it's all up for grabs here. And Isaac Price hasn't really had the or neither of the BMWs have had the pace that I thought they would have, as Petrocchini has, both Audis have done really well.
I have to say as well, Chris, yeah, go ahead Dylan, you were going to point out that fact.
Yeah, Chris Pinchbeck up 5 places. He was, like I said, he was alone on the final row of the grid. He's absolutely flying here. He's not had the best of luck. None of the SSR ride drivers, unfortunately, other than him and where, if I can find him, you cannot. Chris Vickers, yeah. Chris Vickers, unfortunately, has been involved in a lot of incidents. He's not really had a break. But yeah, the SSR ride drivers, it's good to see Chris Pinchbeck is finding his way up, nearly finds a move there on Drysdale ahead. Couldn't quite find this is Walsingham, and Ogonodikov still going at it. And I'm surprised Ogonodikov doesn't have the pace he's seen all season to be challenging. So at this point, he'd be up front with Del Fante putting the pressure on here, but alas, he's stuck in 4th as he drifts a bit wide there on exit of turn 12, and that could be a track limits violation.
Could be for Ogorodnikov at the moment, because Walsingham is putting him under all sorts of pressure then heading our way through. There's you see Narola then in the Sean Clark Racing BMW trying to make his way up the order as he now tries to look up the inside of Zilzovic. Doesn't quite find that way through. Lenson meanwhile fancies his chances round the outside, so too does Vickers. So this is trying to find our way through. Sorry, it's yes, it's Lenson trying to get his way through. And this, would you believe, this is a battle that's involving P21 at the moment. 4 cars trying to battle away. Great stuff to see in this one. And why wouldn't you stay in? Because one of the prize draws that we have coming up in a later stream will be the driver's prize draw, where of course they get every time they finish within 3 laps of the race winner, they get put themselves into a prize draw every single time. So it kind of makes sense to stay in this race and just make sure that you get to the checkered flag no matter what happens, as Walsingham here, Dylan, is putting Ogorodnikov under pressure.
Yeah, Ogonodikov, though, normally cool, calm and collected, big bag Igor Ogonodikov, as David Christie would say. See what Eden Walsingham can do, though. He's got that comfy chair that we pointed out last week, got himself a podium with that. Can he use that? And his driving abilities to get past Ogonodikov up on the back straight. Like I said, it's a mammoth of a back straight. Even in the Tovo, that BMW's got some cracking top speed, and Walsingham's not really been able to find his way through so far. But Argonaudkov doesn't look to be finding his way through too good here, and Walsingham's looking like he's got some blistering pace. Bouncing a curve that's going to put some momentum. You can see the top speed and the acceleration of that BMW pulling him ahead here. Now the slipstream taken into effect. Walsingham making slight ground, but I don't think it's going to be close enough in towards turn number 12. He's gaining. Is it close enough? He thinks about it. Argonaudkov goes a bit defensive. Walsingham though breaks a lot earlier. Can he find a bit of a switchback there as Argonaudkov goes a bit deep? Oh, loose at the rear there for Aidan Walsingham, and he held onto that one quite nicely.
Yeah, he tried to just take a little bit too much speed into the apex. He tried a little bit of a switchback, but the car just did not like it. Too much oversteer, too much speed into the corner. And I did see down the back straight for Aidan Walsingham. It was almost like a smile, a grin of frustration. He knows he can try and get past Ogorodnikov, but with the BMW's grunt, the engine power that it has is pulling him along the back straight. And for Walsingham here, where he's quicker in the corners, of course these mid-speed corners, there's not a lot of opportunities to overtake other than at the end of a long straight, which is just adding to this frustration that Walsingham feels.
And whilst these two are going at it, look who's been invited. Ben Mullard, a very capable driver in his own right, in the Audi. So we've got 3 different car manufacturers all up in this battle for P4. Every point matters in this championship, especially with it being double points. So Ben Mullard is going to be looking to make his way up with those minor places. Thinks about a move, has to go very deep there as Walsingham was a bit in his way. Would look like Argonaudkov broke a bit too early there. So a bit of nerves maybe creeping in for the man in P4 right now, and the guy that's in the net championship lead.
Yes, and there's Chris Pinchbeck up another position, now up to P15. He gets past Drysdale then, gets himself into the top 15 in this race. So he's going really rather well at the moment. Aidan Walsingham then, we rejoin this battle for 4th place with himself and Ogorodnikov battling away for 4th place. Meanwhile, the lead has really been just slightly in Petrocini's favour. He's been chipping away at that gap. It was 2.6 a couple of laps ago. It's now down to about 2 seconds flat between Delfante and Petrocini in these early stages. And Walsingham then now back into the slipstream then as we make our way down the back straight once again. Is there a chance for Walsingham? He tried a little bit of a switchback last time around, but it didn't quite work with the back end stepping out of him as he tried to take in just a little bit too much speed. But this time, Ogorodnikov doesn't feel the need to defend down in towards turn 12. He's stuck to his guns there. He's stuck to his line.
And Ben Mullard as well in the braking zone gained massively there on the 2 drivers ahead. So the confidence of Ben Mullard showing how late he got on the brakes there. If it comes into him having a chance or having a look in towards turn 12 on one of these, he could definitely be throwing a bit of a late lunge and catching one of them off guard. So that's something to also look out for. But going back to the point he said that even there was a battle that involved last place P21, it shows the level of skill of this championship, that wherever you look and wherever you turn to through the order, there's always been some battling. They are quite some battles, like they are wheel to wheel, door to door action here, which is why we love this championship, and it's why it's going to be a shame when it ends. But we don't look at that now. We've got 2 hours and 20 minutes left of this battle. It's going to go on all the way to the line, and the prize is, it's still looking like we have no idea who's going to win the championship here 10 minutes in.
Yeah, you do one of those as it stands, but as we're only 10 minutes into a 2.5 hour race, I feel like it's a bit premature to be thinking about that at the moment, and I think the drivers will be thinking that too. But look, there's nothing wrong with Delfante for his side running away with this one. He knows he needs to score as many points as possible. He came into the night 3rd in the standings, and so long as he finishes there, he's going to get himself a spot into the top 3. I tell you something though, Ogorodnikov, there's a fire underneath him now, because he's absolutely pulling away from Aidan Walsingham now as he makes his way now down the hill and down towards turn number 11 now. I mean, he's just trying to break away. I'm just having a look at the last lap time. Last lap time from Walsingham, okay, it's a half a second shy of his best, but that's only half a second. The rest of it has been Ogorodnikov. He's woken up. He's got the pace now.
This is the sort of thing I was expecting Argonaudkov right from lap 1, which is why I was quite surprised that he didn't have this early pace. This is now Dan Lenzen trying to get past Zildzovic. It's a McLaren versus a BMW, something we've seen many times already in the first 12 minutes. Coming out of onto the back straight, I believe there. So that is quite a VR, and that's quite a bright microphone there for Dan Lenz, and that's quite a setup. We've seen quite a few brilliant setups throughout this season. It's one of the brilliant things of this face cam we have of the drivers. Doesn't think of a move in towards the braking zone, very cautious there. Is missing the apex slight bit there is Zilzovic, but nothing too harmful really becoming of it. As they go towards turn number 13 and 14, it's very tricky complex. If you can go a bit wide in turn 14, it leaves you very vulnerable for the rest of this middle sector going on to the final sector. And it can cause up a few problems going if you try and send a gap. Having a bit of contact is not what you want, but so far no problems really for anyone. And one thing I have noticed, isn't this meant to be a 2-stop mandatory race, and we've only got on the timing screen 1 stop, as I've noticed. Number 45, that is Ant Brown, has made his first pit stop, so I'm hearing it is only 1 mandatory stop. I don't believe these cars can go the full race distance without making a pit stop, or without making 2, sorry.
No, that's absolutely right, as Antamaki gets slightly deep going in towards turn 1 there, but he's able to recover it. Now he's under the pressure of the lone Porsche in the race. Brophy then in 12th place, now all over the back of him. You're absolutely right, it is 1 mandatory stop, but trying to get these cars through a 2.5-hour race with only 1 stop, as Antamaki runs deep into the S's, and Brophy says thank you very much, I'll take P11 away, moves himself up a position. Whilst it is only the 1 mandatory stop, it's going to be a challenge for the drivers to only stick to the 1 stop. It's more likely going to be 2 stops in this race, but yeah, Brown getting a first stop out of the way very early on in this race.
And going back to the pit stops, because the option is there to only go 1 stop, it's very unlikely that the drivers can do it. If you can take that chance and reap the reward from it, you can definitely gain a valuable amount of time if you can pull it off successfully. And if that is the difference between winning and maybe being 5th, you definitely deserve the win if you can pull off a 1 stop. As Oniko is going to move on to Giovanni Pippo in towards turn number 12, not finding his way through. Pippo's normally been one for the Corp, so it's nice to see him starting so high up the order. It's probably his best qualifying position of the season, I believe. So he's someone that we've seen have absolutely lightning quick race pace in a car that's really not been known for race pace this season, but right now he's all over he's trying to defend from Oniko, who's all over the back of him, putting him under a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, Giovanni Pippo knows he has to keep his eyes on the mirrors at the moment, because Oniko is trying to really get his way through at the moment in the number 70 Visceral Esports car, making his way in towards turn 19 before making his way on towards turn 20. Del Fante, though, in the lead at the moment, as Pippo there trying to grab the apex of the final corner, and he just came across the car of Richardson there, Andrew Richardson in front of him, but making their way now up towards turn 1 we go. And how's this going to go? Pippo's looking for it. He's going to launch a move down the inside, and that's going to be Richardson. Oh, it is. Sorry, yes. I'm creating false drama. I'm creating false drama. What would you need me for? Yes, you're right. It's Brown with the blue flags getting out of his way. So Oniko then trying to find a way through, but Pippo was taking no prisoners with that line.
No, so I was with you on that one, thinking that was Richardson ahead at the final turn. Then I saw the blue flags and realised it was Ant Brown. But no, not creating false excitement. You're just building it all up for a brilliant climax that we'll have at the end of this. Surely this is Sean Drysdale on the back of Chris Pinchbeck, who's been absolutely flying so far. Started dead last, now he's up into 15th, but Drysdale isn't too happy. Pinchbeck took that position off him, is going to be hungry to get it back as they're coming up through the middle sector. I believe this is through turn 9, yeah, as the kink at turn 10. So up towards turn 11, get a good exit, have a run up towards turn 12, and that's probably your best look at an overtaking spot on this track. So let's see how the Honda can do. There's an interesting one, the Honda NSX. How can that do? It's a very good exit there, a bit of a mistake from Pitchbeck, and now Drysdale's going to be all over the back of him, down this massive back straight, tucked into the slipstream. No one up ahead. There are 2 cars behind him as well. That's Zilzovic and Lenzen catching. Can Drysdale get a run on the what I believe is a Bentley? This is now back to the battle for P8, Pippo and Oniko. Pippo not budging right now. Oniko is definitely mounting the pressure on these 2 here. So we'll just wait to see on the timing screen if Pinchbeck was able to hold on from Drysdale. We'll get an update on that one shortly. But Pippo flying ahead there is, thank you Steve, our wonderful TV director, gives us that split screen, and Pinchbeck did seem to hold on there. And Pippo, sorry, through that final sector, just bridging a bit of a gap then to Oniko, who's hunting behind him.
I have to say, Sean Drysdale at the moment in the worst pace scenario car, great name, making his way now in towards the penultimate corner, and it's been a good battle between himself and Chris Pinchbeck. Then on your left-hand side, Oneko is trying to get his way past Pippo at the moment, both really attacking the apex at turn 1, and Pippo able to try and extend his gap on that last lap as well, and just really trying to get the hammer down and try and pull away from Oneko behind him. Drysdale then on your right is trying to chase down Chris Pinchbeck going in towards turn 1. You see there's slightly different lines being taken there. Sean Drysdale favouring a little bit of a wider entry, but to get the power down earlier and help him try and carry some momentum through. We saw that last time out at turn 12 to get himself the momentum he wanted, but again it just seemed like the Aston Martin ahead of him had the grunt to just stay ahead even with the Honda in the slipstream.
Yeah, and also to point out, Zildzovic and Lenzen are hunting them very quickly, as Zildzovic very firmly in the picture now in this battle for P15. So like I said, wherever you look on this order, there's always battles, and they're always brilliant battles. We go the full mile here when it comes to the action, and we're going to have it for the next 2 hours and 11 minutes, but this is the battle for P15 with Chris Pinchbeck, Sean Drysdale, Zildzovic and Dan Lenzen then. Again, a bit of a mistake there for Chris Pinchbeck, going a bit deep, but then not getting the best of exits there is Sean Drysdale. And now is that going to lead any of them vulnerable from Zildzovic behind? I don't think so. It is Drysdale gaining on Pinchbeck in towards the braking zone. We head then towards turn number 12. He's peered out of the slipstream, thinks about a move, not quite close enough, and just drifting to cover that apex is Chris Pinchbeck. Smart defensive work from him there, but now Zildzovic in that McLaren gained massively on the NSX ahead, and if he gets a bit boxed in here by Drysdale, who seems to be struggling through this final sector, it then could leave Zildzovic from Dan Lenzen behind, and we are seeing that Dan Lenzen has to miss the apex a bit through turn 15 because of how close he got to the back of Zildzovic there.
Yeah, Pinchbeck running slightly deep in towards the treble right-hander though, but he seemed to get away with that one in towards the penultimate corner. Sean Drysdale, Alan Zildzovic and Dan Lenzen right behind him on his tail in towards the final corner. Back onto the power he goes then in the lone Aston Martin. A bit of an adjustment there. I love the fact that you can see with the VR users here, they look towards the apex rather than just eyesight there, with the head locked in place. Oh, there's a battle going on here as Brophy gets himself past Banny there for 10th place in the number 462 Redline Zach Racing Company. Runs slightly off the track there. Now, I wonder how that's going to be with our live stewarding. Would he deem to have gained an advantage from that one? Interesting to see, because he got the move done and then ran slightly off the track. So, interesting how that one will go down.
I think because he had the position, I mean, this is my unprofessional expertise on stewarding here. I think he had the position as long as he then loses the time that he would have gained, from which it appeared that he did lift off the throttle a bit and allow that gap to close down. Oh, as Brophy is up in court being Clyde Barney and Antomarchi there, as we now go down the back straight. More action here, we go up towards turn 12. It's always a bit of a fun straight here. Mark Brophy under pressure from Barney and Antomarchi with the powerhouse of the BMW behind. Can we see a move? Brophy goes defensive in his Porsche. Can Barney try and send it round the outside? He's going to think of it very late on the brakes. There's going to be a bit of contact, and now this is going to allow Antomarchi to slip through. One of them is going to be the inside line though for Clyde Barney in towards turn number 13 and 14, but round the outside Antomarchi's trying to keep it pinned. Can he stay side by side through 14? He can't, and now the door's just going to be slammed shut a bit further into 15, and that a bit anticlimactic at the end there, and the biggest winner was Brophy, who was the one under pressure the most.
He was, and now he's getting to try and run away a little bit. Antomarchi, meanwhile, trying to put the pressure on Clyde Banny then, who's also got the VR set ready and raring to go through in towards the penultimate corner, and now they'll head their way towards the final corner. Meanwhile then, Chris Pinchbeck then, that does seem to be a line he likes though, running wide, going through the treble right-hander, but look at that now. Sean Drysdale is all over the back of him now, making a way out of the penultimate corner, now in towards the final corner. Dan Lenzen has managed to get past Zildzovic then for P17 off screen, but now here comes Sean Drysdale. He's into that slipstream of the Aston Martin, the SSRI Aston Martin, and you see there Pinchbeck goes slightly defensive. He takes a more defensive line now, going in towards turn 1, and here comes Dan Lenzen Walsingham down the inside. He fancies his chances. He bought the lottery ticket and he's won the jackpot there with 2 positions. He now finds himself now up into P15. Well, Dan Lenson there, taking no prisoners whatsoever, saw the gap, saw the opportunity and seized it with both hands.
Wow, and you can see that's caught Pinchbeck off a bit off guard. It caught me off guard, certainly, is Zildzovic in the background trying to retake that position off Drysdale. Well, actually, it would have been Lenson, but now trying to retake P17 at least. But Pinchbeck caught off guard there, and you can see he had him a bit shook there through the S's, running a bit deep.
I think he might have cooked his tyres.
I think he's done his tyres in, but yeah, but nonetheless, that doesn't take it away from what a move that was by Dan Lenson, taking 2 in 1. It's got to be the move of the season there, and this is also allowing Chris Vickers to get involved, and was what started off with a 2-way battle between Pinchbeck and Drysdale. Everyone's getting in on the party, and back to the battle for P4. Still nothing has changed. It's still Ogonodikov from Walsingham, and then Ben Mollard just further behind, looking up as well. Petrocchini has taken 4 tenths in about 3 laps off of Delphante. That's slowly going down, but Isaac Price really falling off the back of the front 2, as he's now 5 seconds back off of Petrocchini. So Delphante and Petrocchini, looks like it's going to be a 2-way battle for the Audi so far in the opening 25 minutes. But never say never, anything can happen. This is the Cammus Community Cup after all, but this is Ogonodikov trying to defend from Walsingham towards turn 1. Walsingham not really close enough there. It was a bit, looked a bit deep for Ogonodikov, holds it nicely, and see Aidan Walsingham just peering on down the inside of Ogonodikov, but there was no gap really for him to go for there. So Walsingham just letting Ogonodikov know he's there. I'm sure Ogonodikov knows he's there. He's been there for the past 25 minutes. This is what I mean. The calm and collectedness of Igor Ogonodikov, he's not budging one bit.
Not yet at the moment, as Aidan Walsingham put a pin in that battle, didn't he? He started to fall away slightly, and now he's closed up to the back of Ogorodnikov at the moment, now making our way in towards the slight kink of 10 before we make our way down towards turn 11 now, and Walsingham picks up where he left off in putting that pressure on that BMW ahead of him, which has meant then that Isaac Price and Matteo Petrocchini have also tried to bolt their way through. Now Clyde Banney has himself a drive-through penalty. So he'll have to serve that within the next 3 laps. Meanwhile, then, Aidan Walsingham looking to try and use that slipstream to his effect. Then will he try moving towards turn 12? He certainly thinks about it, but has to back out of it. He wasn't quite confident of making sure he had his car down the inside of the BMW there. Had to back out of it, and again stays behind Ogorodnikov at the moment. So he's doing Ogorodnikov at the moment. He's doing a fine job of defending and making his car just wide enough so that the McLaren Vissel Esports car just cannot find a way through.
That's Ogonodikov for you. Brilliant driver in defence, in offence, but sadly he's not really at the pace that we've seen all season from him. Aidan Walsingham, though, is not going to give up. There's a long way in back to the battle then. I thought Nerolo had gotten involved as well, but no, the battle for P15, Dan Lenson's run up ahead here, but this is Chris Vickers all over the back of Zildzovic, who's slowly falling off, so that might be another argument for your tyres going off a bit there. But Clyde Barney seems to be the first of the track limits penalties, picking up a drive-through. That's going to do his race no good whatsoever as we roll through the final sector back to the battle for P4. Then Aidan Walsingham peering a move down the inside. He thinks about it. Ogonodikov slams the door shut there, says no thank you, and he will hold on for another lap then, at least, unless Aidan Walsingham can have a blistering first and middle sector and get a good run up towards P12. We've not really seen anyone other than a BMW have any sort of look in at P12, turn 12, as the BMW just seems to have that advantage in straight line speed.
It does, and I was going to say, Igor was a braver man than I, because he called Aidan Walsingham's bluff there going in towards turn 1. He said, well, I'm not moving this car, it's up to you now. And Walsingham had to back out of it. He realised he wasn't going to make the move stick. So Ogorodnikov then is not here to play games. He's looking to just keep the pace up and do what he can do to try and secure as many points as possible. Now as they make their way onto the back straight once again with Walsingham in the slipstream of the BMW, it's a had a few laps of this now, and I'm sure for Walsingham it's going to be the most frustrating. I think Ogorodnikov as well just can't break away, and it's costing him time battling with Walsingham as well. Ogorodnikov goes slightly defensive. Walsingham again looking for a move up the inside. He commits to this one though, up the inside in towards turn 12. Tries to grab the apex. Now he needs to get the power down. Goes defensive to swoop in towards turn 13. He has the position right now, and now he needs to try and run away with it. Aidan Walsingham now up into 4th place, and there's Mullard in the Audi behind looking to pick up the pieces as he tries to swoop in the Alpha Simsport Audi and try and take advantage. Couldn't quite get past Ogorodnikov that time around.
One little overtake has been invited 2 Audis into the mix here. Ben Mullard and Richardson have all come and joined the party, but what a brilliant move there by Aidan Walsingham. Sort of caught Ogorodnikov off guard there. Clearly wasn't checking his mirrors as Ben Mullard one's a bit wide. That's probably going to be a track limits warning for him. You don't want to be doing too many of them, or you end up like Clyde Barney with a drive-through, and that's something you really don't want. But yeah, Ogorodnikov seemed to be caught off guard there and seemed to turn in, and then he realised, well, there's a McLaren next to me, and had to back out of that one and change his game plan. But Aidan Walsingham, brilliant move, now up to P4, and he's looked at the pace all the way through it. Will he be able to use that? And he's already seeming to break a bit from Ogorodnikov. Can he now try and hunt down Isaac Price, who, again, not really had the best sort of paces? He's really falling off the back of Petrocchini, who's hunting down, bit by bit, lap by lap, on our leader, Eric Delfante.
There's Isaac Price in the BMW G2 esports machine, currently in a little bit of a race of his own at the moment. 7.5 behind Petrocchini, but 9 seconds clear of Walsingham at the moment. And I guess this is one of the most challenging parts of any endurance races, when you find yourself just completely isolated out there, is to make sure you keep the pace up.
You don't want to lose yourself a bit too much. It's all about keeping focus, especially on a track like this. If you, especially going through the first sector, you take your mind off things there. You're gonna, you lose your focus a bit. It takes one mistake and you're absolutely flying off into the gravel or something. So, especially when there's no cars around you, keeping yourself focused and just consistently putting in lap after lap good times and not making mistakes can actually be quite tricky for such a prolonged amount of time. In like a 60-minute sprint race, yeah, you can sort of do that because the time goes by quickly. But when you're doing this, which is almost like a stint in a 24-hour or a 12-hour race, which is nearly 3 hours, we've got here as Oniko defending from Giovanni Pippo. Seems Oniko's actually finally got his way past Pippo. We saw them early on in the race going at it. But yeah, when you're doing this sort of prolonged race, stint almost, it's very easy to find yourself getting a bit lost, and you don't want to be doing that because a mistake, it takes one mistake, one lapse of focus, and your race is ruined.
Absolutely. You don't want to be the root cause of that because, of course, no driver changes. It's just you out there as Giovanni Pippo in the other Italian job, Audi, trying to try and find his way back through. Alan Zildzovic then in the 2Cs Motorsport McLaren, trying to find his way past Sean Drysdale in the lone Honda, making his way now down in towards turn 15. You'll get back onto the power before you then make your way towards the treble right-hander of 16, of 17 and of 18, as Clyde Barney is now into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty for those track limits. So that's one drive-through out of the way for him, but as you say, it's going to lose him quite a bit of time. We'll have to see whereabouts he rejoins, because he was right slap bang in the middle of the midfield right there, but we'll see where he rejoins. We might be able to just see him climb the hill from the pit lane exit, depending on where he is. Can we see him there? We just see him just behind the scoreboard then, as we make our way up towards turn 1. Alan Zildzovic then keeping a close eye on Chris Vickers in the background, as we see then the drive-through penalty complete for Clyde Barney, and he drops down the order, I think, to P19 at the moment. I think it was P19, could be P20, but I'm sure once the timing screens update themselves through the sectors, we'll be able to get a clearer view of where he goes there. Yeah, Clyde Barney now in P19.
Yeah, another thing to notice in all of that, the gap between the leaders had dipped under a second, so Petrocchini is definitely on the hunt now for Eric Delfante, is gaining massively there through turn number 8 is Zildzovic, so a lot of confidence through there. If he can keep it pinned, he might even fancy himself run up towards turn 11, not close enough, so he's going to have to be a bit patient up towards turn number 12. He's not got a BMW in front of him, thankfully, but Drysdale will pick up a bit of a tow from from Chris Pinchbeck up ahead. But Petrocchini definitely hunting them down. But whilst we're at it, yes, you viewers at home can enter to win some of our prizes then. As we'll quickly go back to that, Zildjic hunting, close enough, he goes to the inside line, and Ben Millard, hello. Oh, back here again, Alan Zildjic, not close enough and kind of boxed in there. He's nearly allowing Chris Vickers to get involved in it for a second, but now, whilst I think we've got a bit of a break, we can tell you, you viewers at home can also win a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel, which our championship winner will receive for winning this series. All you need to do is comment on 2 of our streams and then enter a Google form, which will surely be posted at some point, the link in the chat description. Fill that out and you'll be entered into a prize draw for you to win one of those brilliant Cammus direct drive base and steering wheels. But back to brilliant stuff, this race, it's impeccable, isn't it, Kieran?
It really is. I mean, you've seen some diving moves, but there's been plenty of respect out there. Door-to-door racing. Oh, as that's Pinchbeck getting slightly onto the sleeping policeman on the exit of turn 20. And that's Sean Drysdale. He knows now that gap has opened up on the inside, but then Pinchbeck is able to use the grunt of the Aston Martin. Oh, and he goes very defensive in towards turn 1 there. Sean Drysdale did well there to keep alert, to stay alert, as Chris Pinchbeck is simply saying, no, I'm having that inside line, not you.
Yeah, we also saw there from Chris Pinchbeck, the sort of thing that the MotoGP drivers have been complaining about is how bumpy this track is, and especially up towards turn 1, you can definitely see Chris Pinchbeck was feeling it there, lost the car a bit up towards the apex, had to hold it, and also like he tried pushing Drysdale a bit wide there, but no, not really, it's stupidly bumpy up there. Like I said, the undulation, it's a very intense track, it's a very intense drive around this track, and it's something that the drivers are going to have to do to manage, and especially if you've got things like direct drive wheels, it's surely, I mean, do you use a direct drive wheel compared to a non-wheel? Because what will be the difference with those little vibrations? How will that have an effect on, say, like the wrists and sort of your hands?
Well, I can only, I've never actually driven a direct drive wheel in, in full menace, in full attack, but I have seen the damage they can do. Direct drive wheel is absolutely that. Whatever is going out on track, you feel it in your wrists and your hands, and you can really feel it most of all when you're in a bit of a crash, because you'll see drivers now with the direct drive wheels, if they're heading for a wall, they take their hands away from the wheel. It is as simple as that. The same logic applies in motorsport, now applies in sim racing, where you take your hands off the wheel, as Ben Mullard there tries to find a way up the inside of Ogorodnikov, but no way through. The BMW holds firm in position, and Drysdale has lost another position to Alan Zildjic there. There you can see he's got up the road then, the McLaren, and now he's in full sight of Chris Pinchbeck. So Sean Drysdale, somewhere between the back stretch and the treble right-hander, has lost that position to Zildjic.
Yeah, just looking at the timing gap, Petrocchini 9/10 to Eric Del Fante. He will be very much in Del Fante's mirrors here, as Petrocchini, as we finally get to look at our race leaders. Hello boys, it's the two Audis up front. Eric Del Fante looking to get his first race win of the season, and there's also Petrocchini looking for his best result of the season. Eric Del Fante in with a good running here. We have live standings, but I know you were trying to solve it earlier, Kieran. Do we know if you'll get on that to work? Because Eric Del Fante right now could very much be in the top spot right now in the championship, especially with how he's driving, but Petrocchini is hunting him down, and he's not going to let this one go easily. It will be 60 points for the race winner and 48 for second place, and that's 60 points that you'll get for winning. That is a massive gap, especially just a second. If Eric Del Fante, we've not seen him under pressure at all yet, so we don't know what he's going to be like defending. We've seen, especially at Snetterton, when you've got the likes of Robbie Stableford and Igor Ogorodnikov, the two most strategic and aggressive drivers when it comes to overtaking, probably the two best attackers we've got really in this field behind you, and you're keeping them behind for a good 55 minutes. It's credit to you. And so hopefully we'll get to see a good battle between these two and see how Del Fante can hold on to it here. And if he can keep Petrocchini behind, and he does end up going on to win the championship, it's a drive that definitely rewards you with the prizes that are on offer.
Absolutely, and I have to say, just having a look at the championship standings as they stand, as we see Sean Drysdale here having to defend from Chris Vickers going in towards turn 13. If it were to finish like this in 1 hour and 53 minutes, I know we're only 40 minutes into the race, but as it stands, though, if it were to finish like this, Eric Del Fante would be on 128 points, which would mean he takes the title. It would be Igor Ogorodnikov in second place on 112, and then Isaac Price would currently be in third place, 2 points ahead of the championship leader going into this race, Robbie Staplefoot. So it would really be all change at the top of the order. But of course, we've still got plenty of racing to go.
We've got pit stops as well to look out for, different strategies on the table. Anything could happen between now and an hour and 53 minutes time. It's the joys of the Cammus Community Cup. We never quite know how it's going to end. And as with the championship standings, Del Fante, the first 2 rounds, wasn't really there. I don't think he wasn't really in the top 5 for the first 2 rounds. He was thereabouts in the top 10, but he never had an impact. We didn't see much of him on camera to show the level that he was one of those midfielders that wouldn't really challenge for the title. And now realistically, he's leading the net championship, or as the live standings as it is, he's currently leading it as he's pulled a bit of a gap to Petrocini, extends that gap to just over a second. So it goes back to anyone could win. We said this all the way through the season. This one race, it doesn't really matter because anyone could win this, because with the way this championship has sort of fallen into place, one bad race, anything could happen. Isaac Price is looking into it, and he had an awful time at Bathurst where he barely scored points after having to start from the pit lane because of his mistaken lost pole position. So it's been a very topsy-turvy championship, and with the nature of the past 4 rounds, it's impossible to call as Zildzovic trying to now burst his tyres into life, trying to get past Chris Pinchbeck, who Zildzovic is absolutely flying right now, can't quite find his way through on the outside, thinks better of it, really wanting to take that risky Pierder move in towards turn 13 there, and Chris Pinchbeck wasn't having none of it there, but Chris Pinchbeck going a bit wide in towards turn 14. Zildzovic will have the inside line, but now the inside line through 15 for Pinchbeck, and he swings around trying to get a switch back there for Zildzovic. Smart racing and over the curves, getting a bit of airtime is Chris Pinchbeck, and now Chris Pinchbeck is going to be under pressure there from Sean Drysdale further back. So a bit of a gift there for Zildzovic, and Sean Drysdale now gets to rub his hands together and have a bit of action as Chris Pinchbeck taking what has been his typical wide line through the multi-apex right-hander at 16, 17 and 18 through 19, couldn't quite find a gap. Well recovered there, but now it's looking like Drysdale's under a bit of pressure from Chris Vickers and Clyde Barney. So does, I believe, in this little group, as I'm looking down, yes, there are 3 SSRI boys in there. We have Pinchbeck, Vickers and Barney, so how will that play out with the sort of team orders we see in the background? Barney trying to get past Vickers, and I think he'll get that done with... no, he doesn't get that done. Yes, he does get that done, sorry. So we know Clyde Barney, running inside the top 10, has that pace, only down here because of his drive-through. Do you think Vickers didn't really put up much of a fight, because he knows you don't want to hold your team up? Rule 1 of racing, don't take out your teammate. But also knowing that Clyde Barney's probably got the pace to move up further than he has. That's Ben Pollard getting past Richardson at turn 12 with relative ease, it seemed, as well.
Yeah, that's Ogorodnikov. He's got past there into P5 in the Alpha Simsport Audi there. So that was a launch in towards turn 12. Muller now up into P5 with Ogorodnikov now down into P6. Richardson is right behind, and he's really trying to pick up the pieces there. Meanwhile, riding on board then with the Indy Sports Sim Racing team driver in the number 85, Matteo Petrocini, with the tongue out there, cheeky, up in towards turn 1. He knows he's going to apply the pressure to Del Fante up ahead of him. Eric Del Fante here. Well, I wonder what he's going to be thinking running through his head at the moment. He's got the lead, half a second ahead. Isaac Price is 10 seconds down the road. Walsingham is a further 10 seconds. At the moment here, he's in a great place because he might not even try and battle Petrocini too hard in these early stages, but I guess that's the difference between a driver mindset and me up in here shouting in a box.
Also, though, you might want to think sort of, if Petrocini does have the significant pace, if Eric Del Fante could just let him through and just follow him behind for a few laps and maybe pull an even bigger gap to Isaac Price. But I'm sure Del Fante doesn't quite know the situation with the championship standings as of the moment, so it's up to Eric Del Fante to what he does. I don't think Petrocini is going to attack him too hard. I mean, neither of these have a race win, but I think we're going to see, because of how early on in the race it still is, we're going to see a bit more of working together here probably to even pull an even bigger gap to see if you do have a little budge coming together, you don't lose too much time, you're still holding positions, because it's not like it's final 10 minutes. I don't think they're going to be throwing all their cards on the table. I think they're going to be keeping the cards to the chest a bit here and leaving their mind games and strategy a bit sort of under the radar. And as well as we see Del Fante, going a bit deep, Petrocini just gains that little bit extra but not enough to make a move. Petrocini could also take this as a prime opportunity to just sit in the slipstream of Del Fante and maybe get a bit of fuel saving as well, which coming into the pit lane, if you go in with more fuel into your car, it means you're having to take less fuel in the pit stop, so that can be valuable time gained as well. So anything could happen. You could, like I said, the driver mindset, does Petrocini think strategy? Does he go for it knowing he's got the pace over Del Fante and pull a lead? Who knows? And it leads to the excitement of motorsport, I guess.
Absolutely. Of course, in endurance racing, you've got to think about the fuel saving. If you can do some fuel saving whilst you're tucked up in the slipstream of the driver and car ahead of you, why wouldn't you, to try and extend your stint? It's all just about making sure you keep the tyres in good nick as well alongside that, because yeah, it's great to have a very light car, but if you've burned through the tyres and they're not giving you the grip anymore, well, the only place you're going to really benefit from that sort of weight saving and trying to do the overcut is on the straights. Now, granted, there's a long straight down towards the braking zone in towards turn 12, but there's a lot of twisty sections here at the Circuit of the Americas, and that really does put a strain on the mechanical grip that you may lose if you don't keep your tyres in that relative sweet spot, I guess you could say. But they're still pulling away from Isaac Price. They're 11.1 seconds up the road. Aidan Walsingham is a further 11.3 away from these two. So I don't think, well, they're not on the same team, but they're certainly on the same wavelength at the moment. Let's not battle each other too much right now. Let's extend the gaps to the cars behind. Then we can set this on track later.
Not the first time these two have been at it or been close on track in group battles, so they do have that level of respect between each other. Derek Del Fante is probably one of the nicest drivers on the grid as well. He's hard not to like. We had him interviewing when he got his first podium in Snetterton. Lovely guy. So I don't think there's going to be too much sort of score to settle if you put it that way, as we've seen other drivers maybe go a bit more aggressive on certain drivers. But yeah, this, like going back to what you said with tyres as well, this circuit is a tyre eater, and we've seen already people like Chris Pinchbeck struggling a bit and falling off the back with their tyres seemingly not being at that so-called sweet spot.
Yeah, you've really got to... Keeping them in that sweet spot is just a whole different ball game when you're trying to follow another car, and you've got to make sure you keep on the pace, but also take advantage of the slipstream, but make sure that you keep the tyres. It's a lot to do on the fly when you're behind the wheel of one of these things, and yes, you have to make sure you've got the pace, but keeping everything nice and tidy, not overstretching the car, not overworking the tyres, making sure they're at the optimal temperature for your stint. It's all really going through the driver's minds there, as Sean Drysdale is going side by side with Clyde Banney there, and Clyde Banney trying to find his way through. They do run side by side, and Banney gets that position done and dusted as Drysdale tucks back in. Or is it Pinchbeck then? It is Pinchbeck, as Drysdale now launches a move down into the inside of turn 12. Pinchbeck then will have a little bit of a better apex coming out of turn 12 in towards 13. Pinchbeck on the outside, Drysdale on the inside there. As they get back onto the power, who's going to be the first? Oh, there's contact between two teammates in the background. Pinchbeck is off into the wall, and they didn't quite pick up who was the poor, unfortunate teammate that took him out there. But Pinchbeck gives the wall a slight tap, and Pinchbeck looking in his mirrors there, rejoining safely. But I wonder how much damage there is going to be on the front of that SSRI car.
I believe that was Clyde Barney, and it goes back to rule 1 of motor racing. Don't take out your teammates. The first time I've seen that happen all season. It's quite unfortunate really that it happened, but you were looking at, there were 3 of them all going for it at turn 13 and 14, and we said during qualifying it's probably going to be an action spot where stuff like that will happen. It's just the nature of that part of the track. These things happen, and it's an unfortunate that it happened, but I believe it was Clyde Barney. As you can see, he's now dropped behind Chris Vickers. Brilliant sportsmanship, tried slowing down to let Chris Pinchbeck go back through, but then it kind of, I've got to go on because Chris Pinchbeck's hit the wall and I'm going to be losing a good 20-30 seconds here trying to do the sporting thing. But back to our race leader, the gap is half a second between Del Fante and Petrocini, and so far none of them's really peaked to look at, say, Del Fante going defensive or Petrocini teasing a move. So they're all just keeping themselves to themselves here. It's almost like they're having a bit of a Sunday drive together. you know, driving out with your best mate, and for all we know, they could be. But they are keeping things cool, not really putting anything out too early, because as we've just seen, you go aggressive too early, it's your race over, you're in the barrier. So with an hour and 43 minutes and change left on the clock, there's no point really going for any Hail Mary moves, because we've still got more time on the clock than we had for our longest race prior, which has been 90 minutes. So it's all to play for, and one little mistake and that's the championship gone. And I'm sure Petrocchini also knows that Del Fante's in this hunt for the title, and he wouldn't want to be the guy that takes out and stops a guy from winning the championship. It's not really something you want to be having, creating enemies like that.
Yeah, not a wise move to create enemies in a championship, of course. But at the moment, they're just working as a unit at the moment to try and pull themselves away from everybody else. They're both in this sort of drive together. They know it's a mutually beneficial relationship they've got going on here at the top of the order. If we work together just slightly, if you don't defend and I don't attack, we're pulling away here. We might as well just keep this up until our stints are done. We're on the final stint. Then we can sort of draw the swords and battle away for the checkered flag, which is a smart idea. You know, if you're not attacking the driver ahead, they're not defending. It means you're not compromising each other's lines, and therefore you are able to pull away from the rest of the field. And fair play to Matteo Petrocchini. He spotted that early on. He knows if I stay in the slipstream, maybe at a bit of lift and coasting down towards these braking zones to save a little bit of fuel, as long as I don't just launch a move down the inside, it's going to be okay at the moment. And it's working because they're both pulling away.
Yeah, you're spot on with that one. So, you're spot on with that one. I saw Petrocchini, the gap in the braking zone he normally closes as they slow down, but the gap extended a bit there. He's not gaining on the straight once he's in the slipstream. He realistically should be, especially when you're in the same car. So it does seem like Petrocchini is fuel saving. He is lifting off, and actually, scrap all of that, into the pits for both come here. Having to slam on the brakes a bit there was Del Fante. Doesn't break the speed limit, thankfully. So, banner in the works here. Definitely looks like we're going for a two-stop. What I was going to say is it looks like Petrocchini is trying to be a bit more cautious on his fuel, save a bit more, and then he can try and push a one-stop. As we see with our split screen, our picture-in-picture, this is Isaac Price. He will comfortably pull into the lead here, and this will really show how much fuel they're going to be taking and how much fuel, say, Petrocchini has saved in the slipstream. Because if he's come in with more fuel, he will only need to take less, and that's one of the McLarens further back. Aidan Walsingham, I believe. Yes, Aidan Walsingham into the pit lane. He was running in P4. He will drop down a few paces surely as well. So yeah, it's going back to how much has Petrocchini gained, as he is out earlier than Del Fante. And ooh, side by side in the pit lane here, we've got some action here, Kieran.
On the pit lane next. I think Del Fante has just rejoined ahead of Petrocchini then, as they have to, it's a painful speed limit, isn't it, down this pit lane. You're just eyeing up the pit lane speed limit line to release the limiter, and away we go. There he goes then, up the hill and climbing the mountain towards turn 1. Rejoins then in 9th and 10th respectively for Del Fante and Petrocchini, with Walsingham then still in the pit lane. We also had Brophy in the pit lane a bit of time ago in the 462 Porsche. He rejoins in P20, getting his mandatory stop out of the way early. But of course, we're not expecting these drivers now to make it to the end on this set of tyres, on this fuel line. We are expecting at least one more.
Another thing to point out that will be crucial is that Del Fante and Petrocchini have come out in clean air. There's no real traffic between them. Aaron Walker is just 6 seconds up the road, and if everyone's going for a two-stop, he will probably be in the pit lane shortly. Del Fante, let's see how we can capitalise on this fresh set of rubber. We saw right at the start of the race, brand new tyres, full tank of fuel. He had some blistering pace, and if he can start pulling a gap again to Petrocchini, that'll sort of put the pressure on him a bit. But yeah, it's definitely crucial. They've picked a good time to come into the pit lane, found themselves in a bit of clean air. So we've seen it a few times where the race leaders have come out and they've stuck themselves in amongst the four-way battle that we saw earlier on, say down in the battle for P15 and 16. You get yourself stuck in one of them, that's your whole race gone. We saw Igor Ogonodkov get himself caught up in one of them last week, and despite his strategy not being the best, also that traffic can be a race killer.
Yes, it can, and as you said, you get caught up in that traffic. It starts to really have that snowball effect where you start to lose time. You get frustrated, you lose the rhythm, so you start going a little bit more slower when you're making those small mistakes that you weren't making before. It does build up. You're absolutely right. So it was imperative that they rejoined in clean air. Mullard is into the pits as well as Oneko. So they're now into the pit lane to serve their first pit stop of the race. It's going to mean then Richardson now moves up into second place. Andrew Richardson now at second. And then it's Igor Ogorodnikov rounding off the top three. 2.9 behind the number 4 Audi. And again, Petrocchini just starting to slightly fill the mirrors of Eric Del Fante, but not making a move just yet. He knows as well in this second stint, again, it might be a case of more of the same, just working to keep his tyres in good nick, use the slipstream wherever possible, don't battle Del Fante too much so that you can both gain the time you need to start battling later on down the line.
Yeah, they almost work together to win the race. I mean, when it comes to the final 10 minutes, you two could both go at it. Another thing I've just realised, do you think Petrocchini followed Del Fante in, because it looked like a very late sort of move? Do you think Petrocchini followed Del Fante in because of how powerful the undercut must be, with how much of a tyre eater this is around this track? You think Petrocchini didn't want to put himself into that risk where he's then got to go and extend the stint that much more, and then put himself a bit more vulnerable come the end of the race, where he might have to go for a very late pit stop because of how powerful the undercut is? Because if you go a lap later, you could be losing a second and a half sort of thing, so it's then better to extend. So you think Petrocchini was like, I'm not taking any chances, I'm right in his mirrors, I'll just copy exactly what he does and I'll follow him for the rest of the race, and then when we get into the sort of crunch time, hammer time moments, we'll then let things get a bit spicy between us.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's always going to be the call of Del Fante. He's going to be at the slight disadvantage because if he calls himself into the pits, even if it's very late, Petrocchini can always follow him in. With Del Fante, he could find himself a bit hung out to dry by Petrocchini if he wants to try a little bit of an undercut. So all worth keeping an eye on. But yeah, it would be silly to try and lose the slipstream and the momentum they both have going through the field by pitting at a slightly different time to try and gain a position, because you, as you said, you risk the chance of the undercut not working, the overcut not working. Either way, you lose a lot of time there. Meanwhile, Isaac Price is yet to come into the pits. So too is Andrew Richardson in second place, Igor Ogorodnikov in third place. It's Pippo in fourth, Antamaki in fifth, then it's Walker in sixth in the number 99 McLaren, then Del Fante, the fastest driver out on the circuit, in seventh place, Petrocchini in eighth. Both of them have made at least one stop, and then it's Dan Lenson in ninth, and then Drake Cruz rounding off the top 10. But with a handful of drivers so far making a stop at this early stage, a lot of drivers here will be looking to extend their stints as long as possible. I mean, definitely Del Fante and Petrocchini, Walsingham and Mullard all on a 2-stop here. But what's the thinking here for Isaac Price? Does he think he can go for a 1-stop?
Now here's my thought as we see Petrocchini and Del Fante catching up to Aaron Walker, yet to make a pit stop. Del Fante gets through easily, and a bit of a struggle for Petrocchini, so Del Fante will be loving that one, and he's been left out to dry there without the slipstream, as it seems that Del Fante's moved across to help Petrocchini out, so the sporting thing to do there, kind of. You don't want... That's nice to see from Del Fante, to sort of help Petrocchini along, wants to keep this battle going. That's good to see. But yeah, and it might explain the lack of pace from Isaac Price and Igor Ogorodnikov, two guys that have been some of the quickest drivers on the grid, looking like they're in no man's land here. Maybe they are definitely trying to fuel save quite heavily, but even then, they're looking to go an extra 20 minutes. We're looking around about the hour 15 mark if you're going for a 1-stop. As Richardson into the pit lane then for his first stop, he will be on a 2-stop then. There's also, what time do the 2-stoppers go in for their second stop? Because they've gone about 50 minutes. Do they then wait for another 50 minutes and try and split it, or how do they shape things up? But yeah, if you're going for a 1-stop, it's a risky thing to try. The upside, if it works, is massive, and when a championship's on the line, and with things like Price, Del Fante and Ogorodnikov, in my opinion, the championship will be won to the driver who takes the most risks and pulls out the bag. So if they can go an extra 20 minutes and pull that 1-stop, and now looking down the looking at it with how it's gone, with how slow they've been to say how quick they probably are trying to pull that.
Yeah, I mean, the Del Fante is going to be looking for 50-minute stints, really, so we're probably expecting back into the pits about an hour and 40 into the race, so with 50 minutes left on the clock. There you go, works perfectly. That's probably when we'll expect the likes of Del Fante, Petrocchini, Mullard into the pits. Ziltovic also into the pits in the McLaren as well from P13, so he's looking for a stop there. Now it could be an early one stop. They're going to have to make their tyres last 93 minutes, which is a big task, but well, we'll have to wait and see. Eric Del Fante looking to try and get past down the inside of Antamaki. So too does Petrocchini. He's not hanging about. He saw the door open there and thought, I've got to take this. Brophy trying to go round the outside of Pinchbeck, who's yet to stop in this race. Heading now down the hill in towards turn 2, getting caught up in the incident coming in towards turn 15, where he got tagged by a teammate and finds himself further down the field. But, I mean, it was a great start from Chris Pinchbeck. He really made his way up the field from P21 and at one point running in P15, battling away with 4 other cars.
Nonetheless, I mean, when you start dead last, the only way is up. And Chris Pinchbeck, as there's another bit of contact. You've got some front bumper damage. Now let's take some rear bumper damage. As Mark Brophy almost getting a bit short-tempered there. He's also got the fresh tyres and definitely no damage compared to Chris Pinchbeck. So going through those high downforce sections like this is, if he's going to be all over the back of him, and he probably wasn't aware how much Chris Pinchbeck is struggling. But when you're stuck behind traffic after a pit stop, it's going to infuriate you a bit, and you're going to want to get through as fast as you can, and maybe it leads to things like that. But it was a bit better. It was a lot cleaner than it could have been. No one really span out, and places were held, and everyone's all good. But back to the battle for.
I think the point is. Oh, sorry. Yes, you're back with us. I believe the point you're trying to make is just seeing what Pinchbeck can do, and yeah, it was. I think it was just a case of Pinchbeck had less grip. Brophy there is now through in the Porsche, and I think with Brophy on possibly the fresher tyres, just simply didn't realise how little grip Pinchbeck actually had. As there you see Pinchbeck running slightly off the track, going in towards the treble right-hander then, as he now makes his way down the hill in towards turn 19. Could be prime opportunity to get rid of those tyres and see if he can come into the pits, but no, he stays out. So he clearly wants to make the one-stop work, but those tyres, especially as he was battling away, you know, in that sort of P15 battle, that is going to hurt his tyres, especially in clean air, where if they've gone through that heat cycle, it might be difficult to bring the heat down, especially when you're at a circuit like Texas. The track temperature is going to be through the roof. Once you've got the tyres past the point of no return, very difficult to get them back under optimum temperature range. And, well, that of course means the heat damage that's done, you know, blisters. Have you put the damage or put the tyres beyond their capability? You know, have you pushed them too hard? They're not going to be the same when you try and battle away for multiple laps on end, even when you're attacking and defending. Have you just simply taken too much out of the tyres? Well, if he wants to make a one-stop work, he has to make these tyres last another 15 minutes. Ben Muller then making his way down.
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle. Am I back with you, by the way?
You are, yes.
Hello, right, yes, hello. I'm gonna say, yeah, my laptop doesn't like being charged. It makes everything go funny, apparently. So even I'm having to do a bit of fuel saving here with the battery of this thing. So I'm getting the full immersion in the commentary. So it's all going fun. But yes, Ben Mullard, after his pit stop down in P11, got a bit of clean air to Drake Cruz ahead of him. So hopefully, this is also the weird thing. With the differences in strategies of some going for 2 stops, some going for 1 stops, you're going to come across this traffic. It's how quickly you can clear it, and Brophy, well, we saw he was struggling a bit. It's where you catch the car on track makes it even more spicier with the difference in strategies, with certain people on 1 stop, certain people on 2 stops, and there's a Drake Cruz going into the pit lane, so Ben Mullard can have a sigh of relief, and he's got some clean air. It's Aidan Walsingham now ahead of him, who has made a pit stop. So how would you deal with people, because it is for position, you can race, it's not like blue flags are out, so if you're caught someone who's not made a pit stop yet and will be struggling on their tyres, especially if they're going for a 1 stop, how do you deal with staying calm or just trying to find your way through at the best possible moment without losing too much time?
I guess it's a case of, it takes two to tango. You'll have a two-stopper who's trying to find the position and make the most of the tyres, the fresh tyres they've got, the lighter car. Whereas the one-stopper will be making sure they don't lose too much time to the two-stoppers. So you might find that the one-stoppers don't really battle the two-stoppers trying to charge their way through the field. In a case of they'll lose too much time by battling them. I will say, actually, we're about an hour into the race, just over. We have Price leading the way from Ogorodnikov in second place and Pipo rounding off the top three, but the top three yet to stop in this race. Delighted to say we've been joined in the commentary box by Dave Hedges. Dave, welcome along. It's been pretty quiet in the steward's office, I would say. I think the real incident we sort of have to ask about is the Pinchbeck-Barney incident.
Evening all, evening everyone on stream. Yeah, I don't think we want to talk about the Pinchbeck-Barney incident. With bearing in mind you don't take your own teammate out when you're racing. But yeah, I think in reality, when we looked at it, it was a racing incident. We've only had about 15 incidents over the last hour, so they've been very well behaved, the drivers, and it's mostly been door banging, rubbing his racing. So it's been all good.
Yeah, and I mean, talk us through the series, because of course comes to a conclusion tonight with the double points. I mean, must be great to have a series like this.
Yeah, obviously we have some great racing SSRI every series we do, but it's good to have something that is going to result in people getting a prize. It's not very often that we get that opportunity, but for a fact that it's been some great close racing, especially at the front, and as we've seen tonight as well, with Del Fante and Petrocini still only 0.8 of a second apart, having completed their mandatory stop. I guess as you've probably commented, it's a bit touch and go whether it's going to be a two-stop or a one-stop race, but I think it's going to go to the wire this race, and potentially the championship as well.
Yeah, my maths tests are going to be very, very much put to the sword later on to see who can come out on top. But with some great prizes on the line, what does that mean for sort of future series further down the line?
Well, hopefully, the likes of any potential sponsors of a season. We'll see what we've done at Simsport Solutions and Simsport Racing International, that we can put on a great series in conjunction with Simracing.gp. And that just bodes well for the future. That we can get some people in terms of paying memberships to the community, because the community is run on memberships and voluntary people that are constantly giving their time away to do things like stewarding, to do broadcasting, commentary, probably to the highest level that you see out there. And hopefully that will only bode well for the future, because the system is currently at the point where we are at the instance of where we are the income, the conception of esports in sim racing. We're still quite early on in that, but we're seeing some great racing because of it. And obviously we've seen the likes of James Baldwin, who sim racer come GT racer, is performing very well, and it's only great for the future of motorsport, really.
Absolutely. Just have to comment there that Del Fante ran a little bit wide coming out there, and Petrocini's taken full advantage and tries to find his way through, but he's now on Pippo, but he's now 1.8 down on Del Fante, so he's lost a lot of time in that one. I suppose as well, Dave, you're up there in the steward's box. Do you get a chance to sort of sit back and watch the racing, or is it all systems go up in the steward's office?
It depends. The last couple of races of the guys and girls have been fairly well behaved. I think the first few races they're still finding their feet and understanding where they can push the limits, and we get a few more incidents, but it's fits and starts. Like in the real world, sometimes you get a decent race where you can sit and watch the race, and it's fairly quiet, but others you're full on. The longer races tend to give you a bit more time to sit back and actually review the race, the racing and actually the incidents. In the sim we have to load a replay, so we might be 4 or 5 incidents before we load a replay, just to look at them all in one go, just to make sure that we capture as much as possible. And at the end of the race, we will all post the replays so everyone can see if they want to do a protest, if anything that hasn't been captured by the the software that we use for contacts, and they can review those incidents as well. Yeah, I think that's important that we do live steward in this type of competition. Obviously, it's a software-based system, so sometimes that doesn't work as we'd expect. So we revert to a protest system then in that instance. Penalties are given post-race. So it works fairly, pretty well, and I think everyone seems to think it's a pretty fair system.
Absolutely. And I mean, talk about the prizes online, not just for the drivers, but the drivers who, when they finish within 3 laps of the leader, they're giving an entry into the prize draw for the drivers, but also a community prize draw as well. If you make sure you comment on 2 separate Cammus Community Cup streams and complete the Google form, which is available in the chat, I do believe, or somewhere near it, you could be entered into the community prize draw to win a Cammus Direct Drive base and steering wheel. I mean, those are some great prizes on offer, and for the community as well.
Yeah, obviously we'd like to thank Cammus for putting up the prizes. There are some significant things. Obviously Direct Drive's bases are the pinnacle for us sim racers, and everybody wants a Direct Drive wheelbase, and the Cammus base and wheel and pedals have had some very good reviews from the likes of Lawrence de Souza and others, and it'd be great for anyone to be able to win. So do make sure you fill out the entry form and make sure you've commented on 2 streams. If you're watching now, obviously the drivers that were in the championship, and all of those drivers that were in the preliminary and qualifying series, if they finished within 3 laps of the leaders, then they will get an entry into a prize draw. Obviously, the top 3 in the championship will get prizes as stated in the rules. It's worthwhile. The guys that have managed to finish the season. Obviously, only 21 drivers tonight, which is it's unfortunate because obviously we started with 45, but it would be good if they all finish. But it gives the 21 drivers and all of those that competed in the qualifying much better chance to win a great prize.
Absolutely. Dave, we'll leave you to the stewarding, because I'm sure it's going to be a very busy job heading towards the end. But thank you so much for joining us, and have a good rest of the race.
No worries, take care.
Thank you. Dave Hedges there, back to the steward box he will go. And we don't talk about the team, I guess, but wise words, and a great event being run here. We are an hour and 21 away from the checkered flag. Isaac Price leads from Ogorodnikov in 2nd place, then Del Fante in 3rd, with Petrocini in 4th, Pippo in 5th, and Tamaki in 6th. Walker 7th, who's just come into the pit lane, which is going to shake up that order just as I'm going through them. It's now Walsugum in 7th place, Dan Lenson in 8th, Walker at the moment is 9th, and Mullard rounds off the top 10. There's Brophy just trying to put some pressure on Nairola, then making his way through the treble right-hander. Nairola still yet to pit as they head through in towards turn 19. And this is the issue with 2 stops, is that you've got to try and make your way past. There's no incentive really for a 1-stopper to try and leave you the room and just let you through. They're racing as well. So the 2-stopper with the more aggressive strategy has got to find the way past to make that strategy work. Try and keep time loss to a minimum. He might look for a move up the inside in towards turn 1. He thought about it. Nairola had other ideas though, saw that one coming. Brophy gets back onto the power, heading in towards turn 2, and he might try around the outside, which he does through turn 2. He'll grab the inside line for turn 3, and Mark Brophy then moves himself up a position. He's now up into P13.
Shows a difference in traction there of the different states of their tyres, with Brophy's being relatively new compared to Nairola's, which has gone an hour and 10 minutes. Looking at the gap whilst he was having that interview with Dave Hedges, Eric Del Fante did what I thought he was going to do a few laps earlier in this 2nd stint after their pit stop, which was what he did at the start of the race, which once he's got that fresh tyres and the full tank fuel, he just pulls ahead and blisters away. Got that gap up to around about 2 seconds. Now we're in that sort of zone again where Petrocini is going to nibble at it bit by bit and get himself back under a second and hug himself onto the back of Del Fante's bumper. So we've got another stop of that to go as well, so it's something that could repeat itself. And if Petrocini, when he gets onto the back, doesn't pounce on Del Fante, that could then be something where it's just going to be a cycle of Eric Del Fante has that fresh tyres, and at the start of the stint he's so much better, he pulls the gap and it's going to be too little too late for Petrocchini to try and chase this race win.
Yeah, the other thing as well is towards the end of the race, towards the back end of the race, towards the checkered flag, is that Del Fante and Petrocchini are going to have the fresher tyres compared to Isaac Price and Igor Ogorodnikov. So that's going to be playing into their favour as well. Although they might lose out on track position, they've got to try and find their way through, which, as we've already seen, is quite tricky around this circuit. And with Isaac Price leading the way in the BMW G2 esports machine at the moment, yet still stop in this race. Ogorodnikov in second place, Del Fante in third, Petrocchini in fourth, and Tamaki is into the pits as well. Chris Pinchbeck also has just rejoined the track, having made a pit stop, decided to go slightly earlier. I think the tyres were past their sell-by date, unfortunately, as I do believe the clouds are starting to gather over Texas. I am led to believe it is going to be dry for the whole race, but with clouds gathering, it does mean that there's a potential for the air temperature and the track temperature to start dropping.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. We thought there might be no rain, but you never know. It's the Cammus Community Cup, you can never speak too soon. Anything can happen. We all love a good spanner in the works here. Just looking, we've seen Antomarchi Pitt and Chris Pinchbeck not quite at that hour 15 to go mark, which is around about the split for halfway, which is now causes to worry. If they've not been able to save enough fuel where they've had to go into the pits, they're going to have to find an extra 6 minutes of fuel in their second stint, which could sort of cause a bit of a problem. They're going to have to, if they're struggling to save enough fuel for this first stint, they're going to have to try that even a little bit harder in the second stint, and come the end of the race, they could be under high pressure for running out of fuel, which is something we've not seen so far yet. But we do have a poll in our YouTube chat for you to vote. Does Chris Vickers have the scariest race face? Looking at that, personally, I don't think so. He seems quite jolly. He's just focusing on the race here. I wouldn't say it's the scariest. Mikhail Baikov, now that was a scary face. Watch out for Ogonodikov. And it also suits their driving style, really, Ogonodikov and Baikov. Very aggressive, hunting you down. Now, I'd say that's scary. Chris Pinchbeck just looks like a lovely man.
With a VR set as well. It's great. It's with the VR, it's quite. You never see their eyes. I think that's the strategy.
Did I say Pinchbeck? I meant Vickers.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
So many Chris's in SSR, right? So confusing.
It's too many Chris's. That's the message we want to take away, Dylan, is there's too many Chris's in this race. Well, one of them, Chris Vickers, trying to pull away from Drake Cruz further behind, and this is where a little bit of lappery and blue flaggery happens around about this point once those pit stops start filtering their way through. Just see a couple of blue flags being waved here, there, and everywhere. Isaac Price just trying to eke out as well as Igor Ogorodnikov. And I have to say, Isaac Price has built half a minute over Ogorodnikov in that first stint so far. Still both of them yet to pit, and I guess they're just waiting for that 1:15 barrier in the race halfway through to make their one and only stop. And just as I say that, right on cue, Isaac Price is into the pits.
Yeah, here's where it gets a bit spicy. This is now where we will see. We've just got another poll in the YouTube chat. Does Chris Pinchbeck use hair dye? I have no idea, but whoever's running the YouTube chat is really seemingly bored right now. But yes, Isaac Price into the pit. Ogonodikov probably going to go a little bit longer. It's something Ogonodikov is known for doing, really. If anyone's going to pull this one stop off, it's probably going to be him. He's known for pushing the stints to the last lap, really, in a 19-60-minute race. He always leaves it very last minute. But Isaac Price right now is actually looking fairly comfortable with how he is on track, and now he's going to come out with the fresher tyres. And yes, we know he's not pushing as hard. He's being very conservative on the fuel, so I don't think he's going to come out and have that overcut that we was on about earlier in the race, when we was on about if you have an undercut, if you get undercut, you may as well just extend as long as you can and try and get the overcut. You can't really do that when you're trying for a one-stop, because you then have to be wary of your tyres and fuel, because if you push a bit too hard, well, you're going to put yourself in a tricky situation. And Del Fante now, second place on track. Petrocchini as well, slowly making his way back through. I think there's a bit of traffic between Petrocchini and Del Fante that he'll have to clear as he does so in towards turn at number 11 quite comfortably as well. More traffic up ahead is going to give Del Fante a slight bit of a tow up towards turn number 12, and these little things are going to be helping Del Fante in the long run. But now we're into the sort of area, once we've got people like Price and Ogonodikov pitting, here's now where we have to think, well, with a few on a one stop, a few on a two stop, how do we think this is actually going to play out when we look at the gaps between Price and Petrocchini at least? Come the end of this 2.5 hours, who's winning it?
Yeah, it's all to play for. I mean, it'll be about 25 minutes before we see the next round of pit stops, which will be the likes of, oh, we got Oneko who's off. Now, where is that? That's at the S's, and quite an early part of the S's there for Oneko, who's managed to find himself, looks like he's gone into the wall for a visit there. But yeah, that must have been a back end that snapped on him, because that car does look like it's got a little bit of damage on it. It didn't look right trying to turn in. It's not as pointy as it was before into those turns, but I think that's Ogorodnikov, who's just pulled into the pit lane, which it is going to hand the lead back to Eric Del Fante. So we're back to where we started about an hour and 15 minutes ago. But the only difference is that Del Fante, Petrocchini are on a two-stopper, and they're still yet to make their second stop. But Ogorodnikov and Price are on a one-stop. Walsingham here should be on a one-stop, as well as Mullard and Richardson, but they've got to take their tyres a little bit further on in this second stint. Now, this is what happened to Oneko then, making our way through the S's. This is going through turn 3, then into turn 4. Oh, he's lost the back end on the exit of 4. Yeah, that's a hefty hit into the wall there. So it looks like the back end just stepped away from him as he looked to just try and take a little bit too much speed. The car simply said, "You're joking."
Yeah, it's unfortunate things, but you're going to have to pick yourself up and move on. If you dwell on it too much, it's going to cause more mistakes, and then it makes your race not very fun. But back to the race lead, Del Fante had got that gap up to 2 seconds last lap. It's now down to 1.4 seconds, so here's where we get into the area where the tyres are falling off a bit, and Petrocchini now comes into his element where he can manage it a bit better and then starts close down on Del Fante. And now we'll see, with it being the middle stint, after the first stint, we've had the feeling out now. With the cycling box, and we've had the opening few rounds where they feel each other out. Now we're going to see the action where Petrocchini is going to show his cards a bit more, maybe peer a move and try and switch up his game plan a little bit, as Clyde Barney trying to get past Drake Cruz, which I must say, wonderful livery there for Drake Cruz in the number 23. That is brilliant there, but Clyde Barney tucked right onto his rear bumper through 14 up towards 15. Trying to force a mistake, but Drake Cruz not really wanting to budge, swings a bit wider through 15, tries to get the power on as early as you can, but right now nothing's budging between these two.
Yeah, expanding on your Drake Cruz livery comment, yeah, you're definitely not going to mistake him for anybody else out on track, that is for sure. A striking livery, and just making sure he keeps himself on the order as he tries to keep Clyde Barney right behind him in towards the final corner. About an hour and 11 on the clock now. Del Fante leads from Petrocchini, Price in third, and then it's Walsingham in fourth place, and then it's Mullard in fifth, Richardson sixth. Ogorodnikov is in seventh place, so out of the one-stoppers here, he's rejoined right at the tail end of it as well. So he's lost a bit of time there, and he was half a minute down on Price going into those pit stops there, and there you can see the evidence of what half a minute means. It's now Ogorodnikov has got a lot of cars between himself and Price in these late stages, and there's Barney just full attack in towards the S's there. The car multiple times was asking him the question, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Like Barney turning into the corner like, "Yes, I'm sure. You'll do it. You'll make it. It's fine." And it did.
Don't want to repeat of Oneko, but yeah, brilliant car control there by Clyde Barney. Not to lose it through the S is a very tricky part of the course indeed, but as we can see, it's green all across the board on our timing tower. Everyone has made their pit stops now. So after the first round of pit stops, we now get a relative order of how everything is, but don't settle down too much, because if you are just tuning in, the difference is someone on a one stop, someone on a two stop. It's quite hard to predict how this one's going to end. Looking at the gap, Price has 30 seconds between Del Fante and Petrocchini. And now, will Aaron Walker get a stop-go 30? What would that be for? Speedy in the pit lane?
Clyde Barney down the inside in towards turn 12. Sorry to cut across you there. As he looks to try and get the power down, Drake Cruz will look round the outside in towards turn 13. Clyde Barney on the inside. He'll get the power down earlier. He'll grab the apex going in towards 14. Now down in towards 15. Drake Cruz looking for the open door. Oh, there's contact and Clyde Barney then is turned around slightly by Drake Cruz. He gets back going again, and fair play to Drake Cruz. He waited for Clyde Barney to go through, but yeah, bit of contact between them going in towards 15 there. Clyde Barney is back ahead of Drake Cruz, and I think that was Carl Vickers saying thank you very much, that's 2 positions in one go, and I didn't really have to do anything, he says.
Yeah, I was actually about to praise Barney and Drake Cruz about how that little battle was going in towards 13, where the inside line was Barney's. He knew what Drake Cruz was trying to do, go for a switchback, as he saw Drake Cruz break really early, and Clyde Barney just mirrored it and sort of parked on the apex, said no, you've got to go around the outside me, and that was smart defending there by Clyde Barney. And then we had what happened at turn 15, but they sorted themselves out. So less work for the stewards probably, good at sportsmanship, but Del Fante 1.1 seconds between himself and Petrocchini, and some traffic up ahead, or as I liked your analogy, the Lappery is coming up. I think we have lost Kieran a bit there, so you leave left with me for a bit. So yes, this is Eric Del Fante, this is our battle for the race lead. This isn't how it's going to end, or this might not be how it's going to end, because Isaac Price and Igor Organodikov, Organodikov's 30 seconds off the back of Price, but Isaac Price is the one you need to be looking out for here, because he's the highest placed one-stopper. Being within 30 seconds, he's definitely in striking distance, with Petrocchini and Del Fante probably not pitting for about another 15-20 minutes, let's say. If this is Clyde Barney and Chris Vickers, the 2 SSRI boys going at it, we've already seen some of these have some contact. This is Oniko also in the pit lane, we saw him pick up some damage earlier. They're going to think better of really going for anything too dangerous and taking themselves out. There is the SSRI boys as they're starting to pull ahead from Drake Cruz as well. Let's see if these two can work together and start making their way back down and close the gap towards Drysdale, Zildzovic and Lenz, and the people who are in battle with we saw at the start of the race. So Oniko, he having to take a pit stop early. He can make it to the end. Oh, taking some air there. Both of the cars doing a bit of bouncing at the rear. Barney and Vickers over the sausage curbs or rumble strips on exit. Not what you're wanting to be doing. Definitely not going to do your floor any good, but at least they held it together quite nicely and didn't have too many problems. But right now, we're just keeping in it, and I'm surprised we've only seen one drive-through penalty for track limits. We went over there's an hour and 7 minutes left about. But so far, it's been relatively good on the level of track limits, so they know where they're at, and they'll have their, their race engineer in their ears in the game telling them how many track limit warnings they've got left, and they'll know where to be a bit more cautious. So it's very good for the drivers to know where that limit is, and we're not really pushing it too much, and because they know a drive-through penalty is an absolute killer. Something so silly as a track limits where you probably sometimes don't even gain time for going over, you can lose time, but if you just gain a little tenth, getting a drive-through penalty, which could be a good 30 to 50 seconds depending on the pit limiter and the length of the pit lane, it could be an absolute killer to your race, as we've already seen it earlier for Clyde Barney, who was in the top 10 and is now down in 15th, and we've seen him have a bit of an accident with some of the slower guys, some of which are his teammates as well, which you don't want to have. But this is Del Fante keeping Petrocchini with relative distance here, keeping him out between a second, not letting him get in the slipstream too much, and it's just saying to him, if you want to catch me, you've got to put your foot down a bit here. But they also know they're going to have to put their foot down and try and bridge as much of a gap to Isaac Price as they can. Isaac Price with the fresher tyres after taking the pit stop more recently, but we know he's going to be going a lot slower. He's going to be a bit more patient than these two, as he's got to have to make it to the end. Think about his tyres, think about his fuel. So if these guys can put it to about 40 to 50 seconds, then they'll probably be in that sweet spot for the win. Well, we'll then have that fresher tyres, then go and push onto it, but right now that gap is hovering around 30 seconds, and if you're in the pits for about 50 seconds to a minute, in 50 minutes trying to close down 30 seconds, it's quite a task to do. It's a fairly significant overcut having 25 minutes younger tyres, but it's something it's going to be a challenge, and if Isaac Price does pull this one stop off, he will. Yeah, well, we don't have Kieran back yet, I'm not sure. Hello Kieran. Hello. So he'll surely be able to inform us around about if Isaac Price does win this and Del Fante gets second, how the championship will end up panning out. If Isaac Price does end up winning the championship, because he can pull off this one stop, it will be very well deserved, especially with how the season started.
Absolutely. I'm just working through the numbers now and try and see how it all play out. But yeah, we'll have a look. I'll work it out. Come back to me whilst we have a look at we've got a treble screen on the screen, Dylan.
Wow.
The defeat as well. There you go.
That is a well done, Steve. Thank you for that one. Our TV director, Steve, proudly doing an amazing job as ever. We do love you, Steve. We do. Getting a inboard for cockpit, the pedal cam, and then the face cam of the ever calm and normally quite smiley Eric Delfante. We saw him get absolutely mugged off at Snetterton and fall from first to third, and he was still smart. He was on pole, started on pole, led the race for 55 minutes, came home with third, and looked like he had just won the championship. How smiley was. He never looks stressed, he never looks bothered. This is why we love Eric Delfante, because his smile is infectious, how positive he is. And if it stays this way and he finishes in the top 3, it's going to be brilliant for you to interview him later, Kieran. I'm sure you're going to love that. But have you done your quick math and got the results for us yet?
I have indeed. And if it were to finish where Isaac Price wins the race, Delfante finishes second, there's 1 point in it. And it would be in the favour of Isaac Price.
Wow. And there's no points for fastest lap either, which Delfante surely will be cursing at. But if Isaac Price loses it by 1 point, I know exactly what he'll be cursing at. He'll be going back to that Bathurst race. He put it on pole, and when I say he put it on pole, it was him and Igor Ogonodikov, I believe, were the fastest two. And they had a lead of about a second, and there's a drive-through for only Cove. That'll be for track limits, and Drake Cruz has been given a 5-second penalty. That'll be for the incident down at turn 15 for Clyde Barney. That's normally a 10-second penalty, but because he gave the position back, it's only a 5-second penalty. So there, if you're wondering on it may be any imbalances in prior. If you give the place back, you're going to get 5. If you don't, it's going to be a 10-bit harsher. So even though you were sporting and you ended up losing time and you didn't gain anything from it, it's still full of stewards to go, look, watch out sort of thing. But Petrocchini has now got that gap under a second to Delfante. This is getting back to the end of the first stint where Petrocchini, he's seemingly better in the long run on his tyres and is able to sort of catch Delfante a bit in the closing bit of the stint.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to racking your brain for this one and working out the pit stop times, because if the gaps are level at the moment, I suppose as Price is starting to close in gradually, that's really going to be in the favour of Delfante and Petrocchini. Yes, they're working together, but remember, they're on older tyres at the moment, and they've still got roughly about 10 minutes and 11 minutes left on these tyres, so we're looking at about 5 or 6 extra laps for Delfante and Petrocchini. Once they make that final stop, they'll be on the freshest tyres and looking to try and run the lightest car possible. So that's all going to really play into effect. At the moment, they will rejoin behind Isaac Price, but we'll be in for a sort of grandstand last 50 minutes to see whether these two, either working together or otherwise, can catch the one stopping Price at the end of it. And where will they rejoin in terms of Walsingham, in terms of Mullard, in terms of Richardson, in terms of Ogorodnikov? Where will they rejoin in that order? And maybe even Brophy, you know, he might be a rank outsider to have a say in this battle between Delfante and Petrocchini. But as you've rightly said before, Dylan, it's the fact that it is the Cammus Community Cup. It just provides entertainment. You never quite know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you really don't. Now, my thoughts are with Isaac Price is taking time out of these two. It's not much, but it's enough to sort of hamper their progress and chances of winning this. So do you then think, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet here and I'm going to go a bit earlier, maybe have a bit of a longer final stop just to get that quote-unquote undercut sort of thing, or overcut on towards Isaac Price and try and push it as hard as you can and start getting that gap down, or at least negate the gap going down between them? Or do you go, we'll split it, get that 50 minutes and we'll just have that little bit fresh tyres and then just push it? And there is confirmation of the penalty for Drake Cruz, 5 seconds for causing a collision with car 25. That is, if we can find it, Clyde Barney. Yes, it is.
Yep, so confirming, just race control confirming what you discussed earlier, Dylan, is that collision between the two of them. The stewards have found Drake Cruz to be at fault, which looked pretty slam dunk penalty for Drake Cruz there going in towards turn 15. So as you said as well, it would have been 10 seconds, but reduced to 5 because Drake Cruz did hand the position back to Barney. So there's Chris Vickers making his way now onto the back stretch and his way through. And CBSR Racing saying, show Vickers his camera. Done. There you go. Request granted.
See, we're lovely people here, but back to battle of the race leader, Petrocchini and Del Fante, the battle of the Audis that's been going on all race. That gap's now the closest it's really been, about 4 tenths, even including in the first stint. Will we see Petrocchini stay behind and stick to his game plan, or what we saw his game plan was in the first stint, or do we think he's going to go, I want to lead the race for a bit and try and go for a move here?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, this tactic has worked so far as Antamaki gets himself now a drive-through penalty for multiple track limits. It's an interesting one because this has worked so far for them. They've been gaining time all this time, and in fact they gained on time on Isaac Price in the last sector. The gap is now back over 30 seconds. So I guess it's a point of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Petrocchini here knows that his best possible chance of getting himself up into the top 3 is to win the race. He's not interested in second place. He knows he has to win. Del Fante as well knows he has to win because Isaac Price is on that strategy. If Isaac Price wins this race, then that is game over for Del Fante in terms of winning the cup itself. He'll have to settle for a podium placing at the final stead. I mean, it's just, where do you go with this? Both of these drivers have to win this race, but only one of them can. And that's taking into account that Isaac Price on the one stop, about half a minute back, he's made his one and only stop. He's concentrating now on keeping those tyres in good nick, making sure he treats them well, he keeps the car in good check as well. And he's got what is the cleanest air out on track at the moment. 30-second gap between himself and this lead pair. So he's able to use that clean air to his advantage. He hasn't got anyone battling behind him. Walsingham is nearly 12 seconds back, so he's got his own bit of track out there to use as he wants. But, I mean, it would be great to see as Drysdale also picks up a drive-through penalty. What I can only assume is multiple track limits. Antamaki into the pits to serve said drive-through.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a trend. We saw people in the YouTube chat early going to place your bets on how many drive-through penalties there will be for track limits. So that, I believe, is our third one in this race that Drysdale has given us. But also, these 2 on a 2 stop, Petrocchini now knows around about what Del Fante's game plan is going to be. He went 50 minutes into the first stint. They're probably going to split 50-50-50. Now does Petrocchini go, I know around about where you're going to pick. Do I buy the bullet and go a little bit earlier? Because we spoke about earlier how powerful the undercut is around here, and then it puts Del Fante in a bit of a tricky situation.
It does. I mean, it's all going to be in Del Fante and Petrocchini's hands towards the end because it's in the ball will be in their court, really. They know they have to push on. They have the freshest tyres. They will rejoin behind Isaac Price. It is up to them to try and pass him. Isaac Price here is looking to just keep that momentum up, keep that pace up as well, heading into the final corner. What he's doing right now is good enough. Now, 30-second gap, we'll see Del Fante and Petrocchini pit probably the next 6 minutes or so in the next 2 or 3 laps, give or take, to get their final stop underway. Fresh set of tyres, a bit of fuel on board as well, and then they will push towards the end. Then we'll see Del Fante and Petrocchini possibly battle amongst themselves. Now, how late they'll leave it to do that is entirely up to them, but I would say that Petrocchini is going to start that one because he'll want to get past Del Fante. As I've already said, he's not interested in any other position other than winning this. That's the only way he can get himself into that top 3 is by winning this race and scoring the full 60 points. So his best interests are not in second place.
Yeah, show no mercy. If you want the prizes, you've got to win it. And whilst, because we've not found a bit of a calm where everyone's made their pit stops, we're just about heading towards that second round of pit stops for the ones on a 2 stop, where we're going to get into the real spice of the battle between what will be Del Fante and Isaac Price in terms of the championship. This is the final round. A quick reminder, what is actually on the cards here. First place in the championship will win a Cammus Direct Drive base and steering wheel. Second and third won a Cammus pedal set. Those have been gifted to us by Cammus, and their brilliant equipment. That is what's on the table here. That's what is on the. That's what's up for grabs for the win. It's not just about Petrocchini or Delfante getting the first race win. It's about winning these prizes, and they are some excellent prizes that you're gonna want to throw the kitchen sink at the race to try and win.
And the kitchen sink to try and win it, of course, as Petrocchini then just starting to fill those mirrors of Delfante in towards turn 1. No interest in overtaking him just yet, as they now descend their way through in towards turn 2, just keeping an eye on that gap between themselves and Isaac Price, which has pretty much stabilised between 29 and 31 seconds. It doesn't seem to budge from that margin. So Isaac Price is doing his best to not only maintain this gap, but to keep his tyres in check. That's going to be an interesting one. Is he taking too much out of the tyres, trying to match this pace of Delfante and Petrocchini? Well, all will be revealed, I'm sure, within the next 53 minutes. At the moment, though, Delfante leads from Petrocchini in second place, Price in third, Walsingham in fourth, Mullard in fifth, with Richardson sixth, Ogorodnikov in seventh, Brophy in eighth, Pippo in 9th, Walker rounds off the top 10, Antamaki 11th, Lenson in 12th, Zilcevic in 13th, Bani in 14th, Vickers 15th, Drake Cruz in 16th, but with a 5-second penalty, Marola 17th, Drysdale in 18th, Pinchbeck 19th, Coe in 20th place, and Brown rounding off our 21 entrants into this race.
All to play for. Stick around. We're approaching the pit window for the 2 stoppers. Yes, Dave, it is a very strategic race, and I'm rubbing my hands here because it's you can't call it. We've had a few races where you can kind of have a guess. You may not be right, but you can have a guess who's going to win it because of how the strategy is going to go. You're not always right, but it's in the idea where you know the race will come from a certain amount, and you can guess because they're all on similar strategies. But this is completely different. We've got 3 cars that are realistically in the fight for this win, and one of them's on a 1-stop and the other 2 are on a 2-stop. And it's also, we still haven't seen much, and here we go, Petrocchini goes early. We said he might do this, he might go for the undercut, and he's probably timed it brilliantly as well, because I'm guessing Delfante would have gone the next lap round, and at that point, the undercut, well, you're a bit done in there, aren't you? So as we said, Petrocchini might bite the bullet slightly bit earlier, put the pressure on Delfante because of how powerful the undercut is, and this is what we're saying. Petrocchini's not showing his cards here at all. Now, Petrocchini takes that chance to go for this race win.
Yeah, the thing is that Petrocchini was staying behind, so it was always on the onus of Delfante, if he was going to pull the trigger, that Petrocchini was just going to follow him in. Petrocchini has this advantage to call early, and Delfante doesn't really have a chance to react to him. But making their way into the pits is Petrocchini. Walsingham also into the pits, so there dashes the hopes of a one-stop for Walsingham. He did stop with about an hour and 20 on the clock, so it's going to be a bit much to bring those tyres towards the end. In fact, it might have been a bit earlier as well. So he's into the pits anyway. It just leaves a case of Mullard, Richardson, Ogorodnikov. I think they're all going to try and go for the 1-stop. They stopped closer to 1 minute 20 left on the clock, so they're going to try and eat those tyres out towards the end. Ogorodnikov obviously stopped later than all of them, so he should make it to the end on his 1-stop. But all eyes now on the Italian job machine of Eric Delfante. Surely he will have to pit this lap to just try and negate any advantage that Petrocchini will try and gain. So Isaac Price then moves up into second place. Now this is going to be interesting. Where does Petrocchini rejoin? Walsingham is into the pit lane, so that's one fewer position to worry about. That looks like Petrocchini's rejoined ahead of Ogorodnikov, which is fantastic news for him because Ogorodnikov is one fewer car to deal with that's on the 1-stop strategy.
Yeah, so at least you're not stuck behind traffic. That would be an absolute killer. And then it's also maybe Delfante having the last lap if Petrocchini did get stuck behind a bit of traffic going, I'm going to extend here, but no, he does pit for the next lap to cover. Oh! Delfante hits the wall into the pit lane. Wow.
Shades of Damon Hill, Adelaide. He's gone into the pit lane entrance wall, and that's going to lose him a bunch of time. Now, he might even have to mend damage as well in this pit stop, which is hugely unexpected, and that's going to really play the ball into Petrocchini's hands here. I mean, that's such a huge mistake from Del Fante. He's looked on the rails this whole time. But now Petrocchini has a chance to really close in and move ahead, possibly, of the Audi in front of him. He's going to hand the lead, though, of the race to Isaac Price. Now, the big thing here is how long does Del Fante stop in his box? Does he choose to repair that damage? The car's down off his jacks. It's now making his way down the pit lane, so that looks to me that he really hasn't touched that car in terms of damage. He thinks he can try and nurse it to the end now, as now Petrocchini rounds the final corner. It's going to be very, very close between the two of them. As we see then Del Fante making his way to the pit lane speed limit line. Limiter is off. They are going to be side by side on the pit lane exit. Petrocchini, though, will emerge ahead. The undercut has worked, and that mistake from Eric Del Fante in the pit lane entrance has come back to bite him, and bite him hard. He's lost the position to Petrocchini, and you see it in his face. If he didn't make that mistake, he's rejoining ahead of him.
He may get a bit lucky with the damage because you are closing down, you're going into the pit lane, you're trying to reach a pit lane speed limiter, you are going to be going very slow and it's a cushion barrier, so he may get a bit lucky here, but only time will tell. As we'll see how this goes. He will have a lap fresher tyres. I don't know how much that's going to really impact stuff. But pandemonium in the pit lane is the newspaper headline, clearly, with Del Fante potentially throwing away the championship with one little mistake. And I would like to note, he didn't look too comfortable the first time around going to the pit lane either. It looked like he had to really slam on the brakes to avoid speeding in the pit lane. So maybe he was aware of how close he was to the limit last time round, and maybe the nerves got to him a bit there. Maybe it's all starting to go into his head. He knows what's on the line, he knows the pressure, and these little things, this lapse of judgment, you lose your focus for 1 second, and that could be the difference between first in the championship and second.
Absolutely, and Del Fante makes sure he tries to get back onto the pace, 2.1 behind, but that means then Isaac Price is now in the lead by 22 seconds ahead of Ben Mullard in second place. Then it's Andrew Richardson rounding off the top three. Matteo Petrocchini is in fourth. Now this is the battle he's got in his hands now. He has to pass 3 cars and then close 22 seconds to get to Price. In fact, scratch that, 1 fewer car, because that is Ben Mullard who's bringing the car into the pit lane. So for Eric Del Fante and Petrocchini, that's 1 less car to worry about. They still have Richardson up ahead of them to try and make their way past. Then, and only then, can they make headway into that 22-24 second gap they've got between themselves and Isaac Price.
Here's another thing for you. I'm going to get you doing your maths again. We need to buy you a calculator for Christmas. Who would win if it was Petrocchini first, Del Fante second, and then Price third? Do you have any idea? Because then that gets all sorts of chaotic then now with this, because Del Fante is losing time to Petrocchini, so he definitely has some damage there, and Isaac Price is going to be rubbing his hands, because if Del Fante's got damage, he's certainly not going to be going as quick, and that means he's going to be hunting him down a lot slower as well. So it's very interesting, and the next 4 to 6 minutes can't go any quicker, because I really want to know who wins this. We are in for an absolute nail-biting finish, and we've got a long way to go yet.
Yeah, we've still got 3/4 of an hour just over to see how this race concludes, and this championship finale as well, to see how it all pans out towards the end. Now, right, run me through your top 3 again, because I lost track when you said I think you said Petrocchini to win, and then what was the rest?
Second, and then actually no, Del Fante. If Del Fante came second and Price came third, Del Fante would win, because Del Fante is already ahead of Price in the championship. So I'll save you doing from by using my common sense, because apparently I had a lapse of it there. But if Petrocchini won, Price second, and Del Fante third, then who would win?
Well, if it finishes like this, as it stands, if it finishes like you say, so Petrocchini winning, with Price in second, Del Fante in third, the winner would be Ogorodnikov on 112. 4 points ahead of Delfante. So this is what we're talking about in this final round. We've got Ogorodnikov, who's currently in 5th place. In fact, he might even move up into 4th place as well, as Richardson comes into the pit lane, making his 1-stop. Well, it might have always been a 2-stop, but he had a lengthy first stint, decided to come in and put in for some fresh tyres. So that means then the most prolific 1-stopper in this race that we can see is Isaac Price, and he's way up the road, about 20 seconds up. But that's not very good news for Price, because with Richardson coming into the pits, although Petrocchini had managed to find his way past, Delfante hadn't before that opportunity, and now there it is, 30 seconds in 44 minutes. That's a heck of a mountain to climb, but if these cars are climbing up turn 1 as a mountain every single lap, I'm not going to rule anything out.
Yeah, and Brown picking up a drive-through penalty as well, but I find it quite funny that after all this talking, Ogorodnikov could still be the championship winner. It goes back to what we've been saying. This is the Cammus Community Cup. If you've followed the previous 4 rounds, you know that it's always down to the wire. We don't know who's going to win, and it's so topsy-turvy, anything goes. It's one of the most brilliant racing series I've ever witnessed this, and it's been a pleasure to commentate it, because it's just been so good how the racing is, and it's so unpredictable. I'm sure the viewers at home loving it. I'm loving it. Are you loving it, Kieran?
I'm absolutely loving it. Glued to my seat here, as I'm seeing how this will all play out and conclude. Because at the moment, as far as I can see, going into this one, Petrocchini came into this race on 35 points. He'll be on 83 as it stands, as we see him making his way through the treble right-hander, which won't be enough to book a place into the top 3. If it were to finish like this, with Price winning, Petrocchini 2nd, Delfante 3rd, and Ogorodnikov in 4th place, Isaac Price would finish at the top on 117. Ogorodnikov in 2nd on 112. Then it would be Eric Delfante in 3rd on 108. And then Petrocchini would go up the order. I've only done the top 4 in the standings to get an idea of points there. But Isaac Price, the ball's in his court now with 43 minutes on the clock.
If it finishes this way, I don't think Petrocchini said what would be on 86 points. He wouldn't jump Robbie Stapleford in the standings, which is mad. Robbie Stapleford has been flat flawless. He can completely miss around, but has double points and still 4th. And if this race wasn't double points, we could be thinking, well, they're hunting down Robbie Stapleford. How can they do this? And it shows how mad this has been. Zildjić stopped go 30. We saw him in the pit lane not too long ago on the timing board. And now he's wanting to spend in the pit lane, so that's not something you really want to be doing there, Zildjić. That's his race, well and truly on stop go 30, the harshest of penalties. It's like a drive-through plus 30 seconds. Really not fun. But this is Petrocchini hunting down Isaac Price. He's got about 29 seconds to do it, and he's absolutely flying ahead of Eric Delfante, who once again has thrown away another race win, another potential race win. He had a flawless first half of this race, a flawless 100 minutes actually. And then he goes and decides to go and show the pit barrier a bit of love. And Petrocchini is flying away from Delfante, so clearly some damage on Delfante's car. And if I'm Isaac Price, I'm rubbing my hands together at the thought of that.
28.4 seconds between Isaac Price and Matteo Petrocchini. The closing stages of this race, 41 minutes to go. It's still a heck of a mountain for Petrocchini to climb. He really does have to be on the pace. He has to be constantly a second, maybe even 2 seconds a lap quicker than Isaac Price to just try and close in. So you could say the ball's in Isaac Price's court at the moment, as long as he keeps up this pace and as long as he keeps his tyres in good nick. He will be able to try and make his way to the checkered flag. But he's one of the only drivers out there who's on the 1-stop. Everyone's succumbed to the 2-stop. Isaac Price has got to keep this going. He has to get this 1-stop. There's no other option for him now. He pits in. He drops well outside of the top 3. He has to commit to this now. And, well, looking at him then as he makes his way through up turn 10. And then we head our way down the hill before the braking zone in towards turn 11. 40 minutes on the clock. So we're looking at a roughly 17, 18 laps there or thereabouts before we come to the conclusion of this race. And the gap is 27.6 as it stands. So for Petrocchini, as long as his, well, I guess you could say while his seconds the gap to him and Price is less than the minutes remaining, that's a good sign. And if that made sense to anybody, answers on a postcard.
Yes. I will try and comprehend that in my tiny brain, but yes. What I would like to point out, if it does finish this way, Isaac Price definitely would deserve the championship. He would be the only double race winner. He won last week in treacherous, what was flash showers in Indianapolis, where it was on and off rain, treacherous conditions, and to win that one, kind of out of the blue. He was nowhere on my radar of winning a race last week, so for him to do that, championship deserving drive, and now to pull off a really ballsy strategy, and if he does win this race, succeeding with that ballsy strategy, and then again being the only double race winner, it is a championship deserving drive.
Well, he's got 39 minutes on the clock to try and wrap this up with a bow. He then makes his way up towards turn 1 in the BMW G2 Esports machine, making his way through turn 1. So Isaac Price currently leads the way. Matteo Petrocini in second place. Eric Del Fante is in third, with Igor Ogorodnikov in fourth. Then it's Mark Brophy in fifth. Pippo in sixth. Walsingham in seventh. Mullard in eighth. Richardson in ninth. And Tamaki is rounding off the top 10. Walker in 11th. Lenson in 12th. Bunny in 13th, with Vickers 14th. Mayrola 15th. Drysdale 16th, Coe in 17th, Pinchbeck in 18th, Drake Cruz in 19th, he served his 5 seconds, Zildzovic in 20th, having served his penalty, and Brown rounding off our 21 entrants, still within 3 laps of our race leaders. So it does mean he's still, with 38 minutes on the clock, has a ticket into the driver raffle. So that's at least a good sign for him.
Well, being very generous as everything we're giving away, and rightly so. It's been a brilliant championship. It's been a brilliant drive to whoever wins the championship. You deserve something for it. We won't know for the next 38 minutes. It's all to play for. See Brophy in the pits then for what I'm assuming is his second stop. We went quite early. To be fair, Brophy went quite early. He was one of the first people to stop. Now he's gone very late in his. Had a very long middle stint there, so that's quite interesting for Brophy. Really mixing it up there with how you've gone with your stints. If it works for you, it works for you, I guess.
Yeah, and that does mean that Isaac Price is quite literally one of the only drivers left on the one-stop strategy. I think most other drivers in this race have gone for the 2-stop just to make sure they get the tyres and fuel, you know, to make sure they play it safe, and also means they can attack more on the tyres. But Isaac Price, there he is, coming onto the start-finish straight, only on the 1-stop, 25.7 at the last timing line, as he comes across the line. Less than 37 minutes to go for Isaac Price as he makes his way up towards turn 1, your race leader so far in this final round of the Cammus Community Cup. And if it were to finish like this, Isaac Price would be walking away the winner of the Cup.
Yep, and then the Cammus Direct Drive base and steering wheel. So it's not just bragging rights, you are gaining from it. So it is all to play for. It's very exciting, and it's so good and so hard to predict. I'm losing words to say, because I'm just that immersed in how good this race has been. We've still got 36 minutes left. It's flown by the past 2 hours, and yet we still have no idea who's really going to be winning this, because 36 minutes and a little bit of change on the clock, Petrocini has got a sprint now to the line to try and catch Isaac Price, and Isaac Price has just got to manage his tyres and fuel as long as he can, and catching these little lap cars gives you a time to sit in the slipstream, save a bit of fuel, and this is what's going to be helping Isaac Price, these back markers, just helping him get that little bit of fuel saving done down these massive straights. You really want to be catching him on the run up towards turn 1 and turn 12. This is where Price will be benefiting massively, while say Petrocini, if he's going all out, well, if you catch him down with S's, you could lose a lot of time through the S's with a back marker if they don't get out your way in time, because it's a tough place to pass even if blue flags are waving. So it's relatively a 35-minute sprint with Petrocini going all guns blazing and Isaac Price sort of treading on thin ice, trying to just balance everything and manage everything to the line.
Can I take this spanner and throw it into the works, Dylan? Will you let me do that?
It's the Cammus Cup. The spanner was thrown in during qualifiers, mate. You are so late to the party to try and do that one.
Okay,
but you know
because...
what? You can try and throw another one in. If you want, throw a kitchen sink in there, because it's the Cammus Community Cup. It's so unpredictable. You can't call it. You could throw anything in there, and you'd still not do a honest thing to the results.
Well, I think I could. I really think I could, because I've just worked out if Igor Ogorodnikov can find a way past Eric Del Fante for 3rd place, it would then go into the hands of Igor Ogorodnikov by 3 points. He would be winning this cup. At the moment, the gap is 9.3, and the gap has been growing, but if we suspect that Del Fante has a little bit of damage to the front after his pit stop entrance calamity, then he might be losing time. So for Ogorodnikov, all he has to do is try and get into 3rd place, and he'll win the cup. So it's really trying to work out, he's from West at the moment. There's 2, Isaac Price leading the way. He could be leading this. He could pull off the one stop to absolute perfection, but all it takes is for Ogorodnikov to find his way up onto the podium spot, and the cup goes to Ogorodnikov. It's bizarre.
This sort of race is so unpredictable. Petrocchini is lapping for low 2.5s compared to Price. Petrocchini is lapping 2 seconds quicker than Isaac Price here right now. He's flying. So Petrocchini is on a manhunt here. As I was going to say, this series and this race is so unpredictable. It's so hard to call that Walsingham or Pippo could end up being the race winner here. It's so hard to call. Anything can happen between now and the checkered flag. You just have to sit back and enjoy it, Kieran.
We do. With just over half an hour left on the clock, half an hour left of this race to run, and we'll just have to sit back, relax, have the popcorn ready, and see how this all plays out. And, well, Isaac Price here knows he has to try and hang on to try and win this race, to win the cup. That's really the only way he can win it from this position. Petrocchini, meanwhile, is going to be that spanner in the works for Isaac Price, and closing in by 2 seconds per lap. It does mean then, in sort of the final 10 minutes, projection really, he's going to catch Isaac Price in the final 10 minutes. Now, whether he can find a way past is quite another question. I guess all eyes will be on Petrocchini to see what he can do. Del Fante, meanwhile, in 3rd place. He's got a gap to Ogorodnikov at the moment. The gap is nearly 10 seconds, and if Ogorodnikov can find his way into the podium places, he'll take the title. If Petrocchini can find a way past Isaac Price, Ogorodnikov will walk away with the title. So he's hoping here that Petrocchini has the fire lit underneath him, that he can find a way past Isaac Price, because then he'll be walking away with the cup.
It's almost like double points, just add a little bit more excitement to the mix. You're on about chucking spanners in the works. Well, you might want to be clearing out your cockpit. You've got a whole tool shed in there with the amount of spanners and tools that have been very much thrown into the works here in this race and this championship, and yet we still have no clearer picture to who's got this. 22.5 seconds now the gap between Petrocchini and Price. Del Fante and Petrocchini, that gap is going up, but the big question is Del Fante gaining on Price either? With the damage he's got, I don't think he is. I can't see the lap times. I don't know about you, Kieran. I'm sure someone will get onto the one for us at some point about who's lapping what, as Del Fante just clears some traffic. That's one of the SSRI boys as they go on to the back straight. Drysdale's in the pit lane for what I'm assuming is his 2nd stop, unless he's picked up some damage we're not aware about. But again, it's anything could happen here. Do you, Kieran, as we approach the final half an hour, do you want to make a prediction who's winning this?
No.
Don't want to be that guy just to curse everyone.
No, I'm saying absolutely nothing at this point. Anything can happen, and it normally does. Eric Del Fante, meanwhile, is hoping that the Italian job can really be salvaged at this point, currently in 3rd place. My guess is that he's lapping, probably matching, if not bettering slightly, the lap times of Isaac Price, because although he's losing time to Petrocchini, it's nowhere near hemorrhaging the time that Isaac Price is to Petrocchini. So I can only assume that Del Fante is lapping faster than Isaac Price, but nowhere near on the level of Petrocchini. The gap between our two race leaders, 21.5 seconds. There is Igor Ogorodnikov, who could stay exactly where he is in this race, in 4th place, and he could still win the cup if Petrocini finds a way past Isaac Price.
Yeah, it's also getting very confusing with the amount of possible outcomes we have as well. Del Fante, he's going to be kicking himself. Put it this way, if Ogorodnikov wins this, Del Fante is going to be kicking himself that he had that damage. Price will be kicking himself that he made a mistake in getting the car at Bathurst and at starting the pit lane. And if Petrocini doesn't win this, he's going to be kicking himself he wasn't quick enough, because Petrocini, it's unlikely he's going to step into the top 3 now and take one of the prizes that are on offer. But being a race winner, we've had 4 different race winners so far. You know, Del Fante's not got the pace to win this now. Isaac Price and Ogorodnikov have got a race win. So if you want to keep that streak of, you know, a new race winner each race, you're going to have to put your foot down and start closing in on Isaac Price, because even if you don't win anything, the bragging rights are still there, and the mental reward for a victory is going to be very good as well.
Absolutely. It's Ogorodnikov, we see him making his way down in towards turn 11. 20.9 is the gap between Price and Petrocini as it stands, as we see then Igor Ogorodnikov make his way down the backstretch towards turn 12. Then there's Ben Mullard in the Alpha Simsport Audi, currently in 7th place in the number 77. If we can find a 777 in there, that would be a very nice pattern to get on board. But at the moment, no, there's no 777 in sight. Never mind. He's 4.6 seconds back from Pippo in the number 33. We'll be looking to try and use this final stint to get him towards the end. Use those fresher tyres. He's got one of the freshest tyres on the grid. Or at least out on track at the moment, as he'll look to make them to good use. Gap between Del Fante and Ogorodnikov is 10.9 seconds, almost 11 seconds if you'll round it up, which is probably going to be at the next timing line. Walsingham is, well, 5 seconds ahead of Pippo at the moment. That could be an interesting battle for P5 to keep an eye on, as Ben Mullard also trying to close in. So if Pippo's catching Walsingham and Mullard is catching Pippo, then we could have a 3-way battle for 5th place. Just to have something else in the mix as well. A battle that's not going to result in anyone finishing in the top 3. My goodness, it could size up for a great battle towards the end.
I'm not too sure, because Mullard's got this traffic he's struggling to clear right now, and Pippo got passed by Walsingham at 10 minutes ago. Pippo was in P5, and then Walsingham passed him and has now pulled the gap. So I don't think Pippo's really gaining. If he's making short gains, it might be Walsingham making little mistakes. We'll keep an eye out on it, but I think we're more likely to see Mullard catch Pippo, as yeah, you can see the gap in just that one little split we had in the sectors. Pippo lost 8 tenths to Ben Mullard, sorry, to Aidan Walsingham. So it's more likely going to be Ben Mullard hunting down Pippo for P6.
Ben Mullard then making a move down the inside of Chris Pinchbeck, then down the inside in towards turn 1, as you said about a couple of hours ago now, that it's a very wide turn 1. You know, you can really launch a move down the inside. You could be in a different postcode going in towards turn 1 and still make the corner. There's Petrocini then making his way out of turn 15. And onwards he goes then towards the treble right-hander. The gap is now 19.1 seconds. It's getting more and more nip and tuck as the time ticks by. As time ticks by, it's getting more and more in the favour of Isaac Price. Petrocini makes his way through in towards the penultimate corner. Now he makes his way towards the final corner then. And once he reaches the timing line, the start-finish line, you get an idea of what the gap is between Price and Petrocini then. A bit of traffic up ahead, but they will be a bit of lappery going on. Petrocini 18.5 seconds back from Isaac Price. Into the last 25 minutes. There is your race leader in Isaac Price, lapping in those 2:07s at the moment. Still Petrocini is closing down on him and closing in hard. Just over 25 minutes left of this race to go. And to put it this way, if Petrocini makes the move on Price, Ogorodnikov walks away with the cup. You can't make that up.
Imagine having to be the guy to make highlights of this race. Imagine having to sum up this championship and how it's gone. Imagine just having that job. So, I mean, we're going to have a job summing this race up at the end of it, aren't we? We're going to have to go through all of this malarkey that we've gone through. It's been so topsy-turvy, it's left us scratching our heads and having to get the calculators out and trying to come up with all sorts of scenarios, every possible outcome. And even then, we're no closer to understanding how this race is going to pan out. Petrocchini is closing, but he's seeming to lose a bit of time to what he was doing earlier to Isaac Price. That gap is going down still, but not as much as it has been when he was kicking 2 seconds a lap out of Isaac Price as he comes through the tricky turn 13, 14 and 15 complex in this final sector around the beautiful circuit of the Americas. Pulling away massively now from Del Fante, and at this point Del Fante is going to be kicking himself. He went and had that entangling sort of mistake with the barrier at the pit entry. It must be so heartbreaking potentially losing out on a championship on an accident at, what, 50 miles an hour? Surely, you know, you must walk away from that and go, I'm an absolute idiot, why did I do that?
Well, hindsight is 2020, you know. It's great if you can see everything coming, but for Del Fante, yes, he will be kicking himself, but at the same time, if he had rejoined ahead of Petrocchini, those two would have been battling away, you know, hammer and tong for that position. That would have handed an advantage there to Isaac Price temporarily. Who knows how that battle would have gone? So, you know, it all leaves it up to what ifs. At the moment, the only what if is what if Isaac Price can win this, or what if Petrocchini can catch this BMW and try and find a way past. 23.5 minutes left. The gap right now is 17.1 seconds. You're right, the gap is starting to slow in its cascade downwards, but it's still going in the direction that favours Petrocchini.
Yeah, so it's going. Petrocchini's going to have to find something if he wants to win this, because it's going to get to a certain point where you're going to be running out of time. So approaching around about 11, 12 laps left. If you're only taking a second a lap out of the car in front, it's not enough right now. So just to clarify things as we approach the final stage of this race, if it finishes like this and Isaac Price wins the race, he wins the championship.
Yes.
And if Petrocchini catches Price and passes Price, Ogonodikov wins the championship.
Correct.
And I won't include Del Fante because Del Fante is not, I don't think he's in a position to win it anymore at this point because he's just losing too much time. It's a real shame because he was doing so good. But going back to your point of hindsight, if Del Fante and Petrocchini came out together, the way they went for the first two stints, I don't believe they would have. I think they would have been smart enough to go, we can catch him, and they wouldn't have fought until they got past Price, and then it would have been a free-for-all with a three-car battle for the lead. What do you think?
It's a very fair assessment there. As we see Eric Del Fante, I think the ghost is up for Eric. I think he looks a little bit frustrated, and I think, you know, fair play to him. He's still in the race, so he still wants to finish this one, but he knows so much more could have been from this race had it not been for the error in the pit lane. But I think you raise a fair point. Yes, they could have worked together like they had done for the first 2/3 of the race, but it would have come down to Petrocchini might have just thought, actually, I'm quicker than you now, we can catch him quicker if I'm in the lead. Could have started battling there. You know, once you start doing that, you start to get the whole tree of events heading our way through as Chris Vickers comes into the pit lane to, I assume, put on a fresh set of tyres, perhaps even attempt to go for the fast lap on the freshest tyres possible, maybe try and make the car as light as possible as well, as we have that picture-in-picture, one side being seeing Isaac Price on the trackside cameras, the other right in amongst that front splitter.
Very interesting camera angle there. It's like when you put your fingers around your eye, you make a circle with your hand. That's the sort of image we're getting there, as it is in that front split on the front bumper of the car. Brilliant camera angle, I must say. And it gives us an idea, especially onto the right-handed turns, how close to the apex he gets. And also, it shows a bit of the ride of how bumpy this track is. You can see there, going through turn 13 and 14, you can just see these little almost roller-like things with how bumpy it is, and it shows the difficulty around this track and maybe why I've seen so many mistakes from drivers making a little contact here and there and having to make these corrections, because it is so bumpy. You are going to be feeling it in the wheels because these sims are now so immersive. these little factors, even in a video game, are playing into sort of like real life physics.
They are, and it's a great thing about that camera angle as well is the lower down you are, you really do get that sense of speed, of how much speed these cars are taking into those corners. I'd love to see that going through the S's, just to see how much speed Isaac Price is carrying in them. Now, bear in mind, he's trying to nurse his tyres to the end in the final 20 minutes, going in towards turn 1. Really is the S's where it demands that mechanical and aerodynamic grip as he makes his way through turn 2. Here we go then on the right on the front bumper now as he makes his way through 3, through turn 4, and you start to slow it down through in towards 5, possibly another gear down in towards turn 6. It's a long right-hander here before you then chuck it in towards turn 7 with your front right tyre, or front left tyre I should say, already screaming in agony. It has to then go through turn 8, back onto the power as we climb up the hill through turn 9, and then we get over that crest. It's blind as you turn in towards turn 10 there, then on the way down towards turn 11, using plenty of curb on the right hand side to open up that braking zone and just try and carry that little bit extra speed in towards turn 11. Whatever works. 19 minutes on the clock, 14.5 seconds is the gap. That gap is starting to slow down in terms of, well, Petrocchini trying to close that gap. He's still closing, but closing at a slower rate. That's going to come back, and this is where the tyres that Petrocchini is on, yes, they were the freshest set, but if he's been on full attack on them, the tyre delta is going to get much narrower and narrower, and any time that happens, that's going to favour Isaac Price.
Trying to find that healthy balance, but the gap now 14 seconds to go. If Petrocchini wants to catch Isaac Price, we've got 18.5 minutes on the clock. All to play for still, and if Petrocchini, something to point out for Petrocchini, when the tyres start falling off, he's able to manage them a bit better. We saw when he was against Del Fante at the start, the tyres brand new, he had the better pace, but when they start falling off a bit, that's kind of when Petrocchini falls into his element. It's almost like he finds a second wind of his tyres. It's almost like when Lewis Hamilton says, "Bono, my tyres are dead." You pull out a second wind. So could we see that from Petrocchini now?
We could do. I mean, it works at the same time with hammer time. And the code message, I'm sure, is Bono, my tyres are gone. And that means, I'll go full attack for the next 10, 15, 20 laps and really pull everything out of the bag. Gap is 13.6 as Petrocchini crossed the line last time around with 17.5 minutes left on the clock. It is going to be nip and tuck. And if Petrocchini can catch Price, there's not going to be very much time on the board left to run. Meanwhile, this is a battle for 6th place there as Pippo and Mullard go side by side, heading our way down in towards turn 12. Mullard grabs the inside line for turn 12 and moves himself now up into 6th place. A nice move from Mullard then.
He said earlier on that sort of thing was coming with Mullard gaining on Pippo. So now Pippo, I think he's gone very early in this for a second stop. So now it's going to be, can he hold on to a top 10, top 8 position? As Richardson's only 6.6 seconds behind, Walker not too much. So can he hold on to P7 now, Pippo? With the speed he's got for the final 16 and a bit minutes left we have on the clock. Who knows? So even then, we're looking down the order of these minor places, and we still don't know how any of this is going to end. So it's very exciting, the sort of spectacle we have with the difference in the strategy, with how the longer the race is, the more strategies, the more stops, and even then if you're all going on a 2-stop, with how you can split the stints, that makes it even more difficult. So we've been going on and on about, 2-stop and 1-stop, but then there's also that inter 2-stop battle, where we've seen some people split it 50-50-50 on the minutes, make it exactly split it evenly. Then we've seen some people maybe go for a short burst of 30 minutes, go all out attack, and maybe extend, say in the middle stint, where you just need to sort of get into a bit of a rhythm. So as much as we've been going on about the 1-stop versus 2-stop, there's also how the difference in the 2-stop where you can use to then gain on others.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Banny here is battling away with Mark Brophy in towards the final corner. They go now, and that Porsche is all over the back of him now. Back onto the power they go, and that grunt of the BMW can help pull it ahead of the Porsche. But I can only see this ending one way for Mark Brophy. He's into the slipstream, he pulls to the inside line, he's going to launch it down the inside in towards turn 1. He's still got the space there up the inside, tries to get back onto the map, but who's this making his way through? It's the number 85 car, which is Petrocchini, so he managed to get his way through relatively unscathed between these two battling away, so that worked a treat for him in towards turn 1. And meanwhile, Mark Brophy has managed to get himself ahead of Clyde Barney. Up into 11th place goes the Porsche.
Now, do you think Barney pushed Brophy off a bit there at turn 1? It did seem he went a bit deep on the brakes and sort of nudged him a bit wide. We couldn't see how much. It's just speculation because of the camera angle. But nonetheless, it was a good move by Brophy. Surely he was going to get past him. He's got the fresher tyres. We see him take his final pit stop not too long ago. But this is Clyde Barney still trying to make his way up towards Brophy, up towards turn 12 they go, not close enough. Sorry, that's turn 11, sorry. Now we're onto the back straight up towards turn number 12. So, the speed and the acceleration of the BMW, plus with the slipstream, can he find a move and get a bit of revenge on the Porsche up towards turn number 12? Earlier in the lap we saw Brophy get past in the first heavy braking zone and overtaking opportunity around the outside. Barney's going to have to try and go, covers the inside then, does Brophy. He does have the fresher tyres, but Brophy cuts across a bit there, slams the door shut, and Barney kind of locked away a bit there. The door slammed in his face, no way through as they come through the middle sector.
Absolutely, well, these two are going to battle a little bit longer, as of course Clyde Barney in the BMW with the tow as well. Just going to make him just close in more and more. But this is where Brophy has to use those fresher tyres, use that nimble Porsche to get away through the corners, and see if he can just pull away enough of a gap so that he breaks the tow as much as possible to Clyde Barney there as they make their way in towards the final corner. Then 13.5 minutes left on the clock, Isaac Price leading the way by 11.1 seconds. It's getting nip and tuck now, and when that happens, that favours Price more and more. Be interesting to see what sort of comparison of lap times they are, because although Petrocchini is lapping faster than Price, it's now getting to a point where he might catch Price towards the end. A second faster Petrocchini was on that last lap to Price, and if we've got about we've probably got about 6 laps to go in this race, maybe even 5 if the laps align themselves. At the moment, Petrocchini will not catch Isaac Price.
Not at all, but we do see Isaac Price getting a bit of traffic here, and it's just all going to be about how Price can deal with the traffic and where he catches them. Fortunately, it looks like he's caught him at a very good spot. This is turn 11. He's going to be on the massive back straight, which is about a kilometre long, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to get a bit of a toe off curve, and Lenzen up ahead, up towards turn 12 will go. He'll get a toe, and then Dan Lenzen will have the blue flags, and he will comfortably get past him. But if Price starts catching these cars down at the S's, and then say Petrocchini's getting them on the straight, and it's another spanner in the works, as you say, Kieran.
We love that phrase, don't we? Spanner in the works. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. Well, at the moment, though, Isaac Price leading the way, and that's all he wants at the moment. He'll be doing enough to take home the top prize in this Cammus Community Cup, and he'll be absolutely thrilled with that one if he can get himself a place in that championship winning position and winning himself a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel. He'll be 11 minutes away trying to claim that checkered flag, and the gap is 10.4 seconds. Don't forget as well, although there are championship prizes on grabs and up for grabs for our top 3, don't forget about our community prize draw, where you yourselves have a chance to win a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel. All you have to do is comment on 2 separate Cammus Community Cup streams on YouTube, and make sure you complete the Google form as well to be entered into the community prize draw. Don't forget, you have to do that soon. There'll be a stream at a later date for the draw, and we'll find out if you are in with a chance to win that base and steering wheel. And good luck to you when you enter as well. 11 minutes to go then. Isaac Price leads from Matteo Petrocchini, Eric Delfante in 3rd place, and you've got Igor Ogorodnikov in 4th, Walsiger in 5th, Mullard in 6th, Pippo 7th, Richardson in 8th, Walker 9th, Lenson in 10th, Brophy 11th, Banny in 12th, Antamaki in 13th, Nairola 14th, Go in 15th, Vickers 16th, Pinchbeck in 17th, Drake Cruz in 18th, Drysdale 19th, Zildzovic in 20th, and Brown rounding off our 21 driver. I do believe Brown is still circulating the circuit, so fair play to you. He's trying to make sure he finishes within 3 laps of the race leader and the race winner and the distance covered, because that would then enter him into a driver prize draw where 5 times in the season you can be entered into that draw for finishing within 3 laps of the race winner. So still, even if you don't finish in the top 3, you still have a chance yourselves in the driver to win a Cammus Direct Drive Base and steering wheel. So still all to play for there. Well, I have to say, this race has absolutely flown by, Dylan, and we're now into the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, off the line, last lap, Isaac Price came across with 11:33 to go. If my math serves me correctly, we'll get, including this lap we're currently on, there'll be 6 laps to go, at the line, 5 laps to go, and I think we'll start the final lap. I think, if my math's correct, Isaac Price will come across the line with about 58, 57 seconds left. We start the final lap. Right now, 9.5 minutes to go. Anything can still happen. It's looking more and more likely that Price is going to win this, as do Petrocchini. He's gaining, but it's slowly falling off bit by bit. And also, the way Price is catching these back markers, it's really doing him a good benefit. He's getting these toes up the straight, and unfortunately, I believe that is Drysdale up ahead, as we have a beautiful picture-in-picture of Petrocchini and Isaac Price, as Isaac Price is going through this. He's going to be getting a bit of dirty air now, a bit of traffic, not where you want to be getting blue flags really, through this, as like we've said, and Petrocchini might be able to take a bit of benefit from that, and now, if he can gain some time through this little sector, with Isaac Price sort of struggling behind Drysdale right now, again, these are little things that, the gap's 9 seconds, 8.5 minutes to go. If Petrocchini can find anything, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, he needs to pull the rabbit out of the hat now, doesn't he? With 8.5 minutes left on the clock and 8.5 minutes left to run, as Isaac Price then gets his way, or will get his way, past Drysdale then in the lone Honda in the race. I would think so anyway. Drysdale's pulled off to the left-hand side of the track to let Isaac Price go and to obey those waving blue flags then on the run down towards turn 12. Yep, yeah, you can see. And Tamaki picking up his second drive-through penalty of the race for track limits. So we're up to, I believe that's 4 drive-throughs now. So if you're still keeping a count at home, we're up to 4 drive-through count.
I believe that is the 4th one, and it's the 2nd for Antomarchi, so he's clearly not had a good time since the previous drive-through. So people who were taking those bets, with 7 and a bit minutes to go, right now it's at 4, but last time we brought up drive-throughs and how little they'd actually had, depending on what we thought was going to have. We've then got a wave of 2 drivers getting drive-throughs, and now, with the race going on as it is, as we see Isaac Price wondering, that is something you don't want to do. That's something also to keep your mind out of. If you do that too much, you could lose a championship by getting a drive-through simply by wandering over the white line too far.
Yeah, there's Petrocchini then making his way through the final corner and onwards to the start-finish line. They're in the same camera shot now. 7.1 seconds between them. 7 minutes left to run. That is advantage Isaac Price in these closing stages here. Petrocchini really has to throw everything at this and the kitchen sink if he wants to catch Isaac Price up ahead. The only problem with that though, if he does do that, he will absolutely cook his tyres, and towards the end he'll have absolutely no grip whatsoever. Let's have a look here of Isaac Price we're watching, and I'm sorry, of Petrocchini, there we go, making his way through the S's now. So what we picked up on the cameras here as he makes his way up through the S's then. It is live, that's my apologies there, as Petrocchini then, we're back live, down the hill we go in towards turn number 11, and the gap is 7 seconds with 6 minutes left to run. Antamaki is into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty. He'll probably rejoin roughly in about P15. It might be close between himself and Odeko as Petrocchini takes a quick drink down the long backstraight. Best time to do it. Best time to do it, Matteo.
Yeah, you was on about throwing everything, including the kitchen sink. Yeah, throw the kitchen sink like it's a shell in Mario Kart. That's the sort of things that you need now. It is crunch time, it is hammer time, it is championship time. These are the championship minutes. It's like the 12th round in a boxing match. It's the championship round, championship minutes. This is where the toys will be won. The big money, the prizes, the bragging rights. it will be won and decided in this final 5.5 minutes, and it is Price versus Ogonovikov in the championship, and the deciding factor in that is going to be Petruccini. If Petruccini can catch and pass Price, Ogonovikov will be our champion. If not, Price will be our champion. So it's a battle between two guys, and then there's, you know, neither of them. The guy that will decide this championship is not in the running for it. It's fascinating and kind of sums up. This championship is between Ogonovikov and Price now, and it will be decided by Petruccini in his final 5 minutes.
Yeah, bizarre to call it like that, isn't it? But that's exactly the scenario we find ourselves in these closing 5 minutes of the race then. Petruccini got a little bit of traffic there up ahead. He manages to dispatch of that and makes his run then through in towards turns 3, then through turn 4, and etc, etc. Very easy to lose count through here of all the corners. But Isaac Price then is making his way then through in towards the left-hander, this long left-hander, then quickly to your right through turn 8, over the crest of turn 9. Then we go to that slightly blind downhill crest in towards turn 10. We have to turn in and hope the curb is there before you make your way down the hill in towards turn 11. They do share the same straight at the moment. They will share the same back stretch with 4 minutes and 10 on the clock. So we've got 2 laps, roughly, maybe even 3. We could squeeze out a third lap, and that would favour Petruccini then. More laps, the better for him. As Isaac Price making his way down in towards turn 12. Petruccini trying to close in as well. We'll get to the next timing line and we'll see what the gap is between the two of them. The gap is 5.2 seconds, so really in the favour of Isaac Price as it stands.
Yep, 3 and a bit minutes to go. Isaac Price, 5.2 seconds between himself and Petruccini. Surely he knows. Surely Price knows Petruccini's got. Is my mic okay? Kieran, can you hear me alright?
I think I can now.
Is that all good, Steve?
I think so, yes.
We go. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what happened there, but yes, Petruccini can see Price when they get onto the straight, and he will see when he rounds this final turn, turn 20. He will just about be able to see, as there we go into picture, on the same straight, on the same half of the straight as well. They are thoroughly, you can see it now, about 2 laps to go. I think this is the penultimate lap. He's fine, 2.5 seconds, and then get past Price if he wants to sort of win this race.
Yeah, it's going to be tough now for Petruccini, but all he can do is press on and just put in those lap times like they mean it, like they depend on it. Meanwhile, a little bit of battle here going on for P13. Now, Roller, I think, is battling away with Antamaki. Now, Antamaki's just rejoined from the drive-through penalty he received, and now we get a bit of a BMW battle in the midfield as Adrian Antamaki's lost out to Roller there, but I'm sure that's not the end of that battle. They both put the hammer down, through in towards the treble right-hander we go. Is there a way for Antamaki to find his way back past Roller with 2 minutes on the clock? Let's see then in towards turn 90. Don't really want to go side by side through here, but I've been proven wrong. I'll be happily proven wrong again. Now up towards turn 20, the final corner, and on towards the start-finish straight. And even in these closing stages, there's still battles to be won, battles to be fought for positions up and down the order. And here comes Antamaki, then he'll have to go the long way round Roller, going in towards the first turn. He uses plenty of curb on his right-hand side to try and carry a little bit more speed through. Roller plants the car perfectly there. There's no way through for Antamaki, and these two are going to be battling till the checkered flag. Great to see between the two of them. What's the gap like now between Price and Petruccini? It's 4 seconds with just about 75 seconds left to run in this race. So Isaac Price here is going to round these final 2 corners, and he will begin the final lap of this race. There's Andrew Richardson, meanwhile. He's closing in fact, not only closing in, he's caught Pippo then in these closing stages. These guys will have 2 laps left to run, as long as they're not caught by Isaac Price and Petruccini. They've got 2 laps to decide their position of 7th place. And of course, Pippo here with those worn tyres. I think he's got one of the oldest tyres on the grid, apart from that man there, Isaac Price. So he's really going to have to try and make them last, eat them out as much as possible. Final lap of this race then. Isaac Price will have to tackle another 5 kilometres of COTA to try and claim the title then. In through the S's, he will go for the final time, tackling his way through turn 6, then through 7 here. One last chance, one last lap of complete and utter concentration. Turn 8 then, through in towards turn 9. No doubt he'll have told his team to stay silent for these last few minutes then, to give him all the concentration he needs. He will head his way down the hill in towards turn 11. And of course, a little bit of lappery to undertake as well. Just making sure he gets the power down as well. Onto the back stretch then. The timer and time has expired here. He's almost there. Just making sure he coaxes himself through these final few corners then. On his way towards turn number 12. You can see Petrocchini in the background. There's nothing between himself and Price at the moment. Unfortunately for him, he needed a couple of laps more, maybe even 1 or 2 laps to get onto the back of the BMW. But Isaac Price here, making his way now, negotiating through 13, through 14, down onto the anchors, in towards turn 15 here. He'll get back onto the power and tackle the treble right-hander for the final time. Here he goes then, through 16, through turn 17, and then through turn 18. 2 corners to go then for Isaac Price in the BMW G2 Esports machine. The penultimate corner at turn 19, and now on towards, powering towards the final corner. 1 corner to go then, as he gets back onto the power, and he will take the checkered flag. Isaac Price wins the race, and he wins the Cammus Community Cup. A fantastic one-stop strategy from Isaac Price, and he has done enough to take the championship. Congratulations to Isaac Price. He will win a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel, as Petrocchini finishes in 2nd place. Del Fante then, well, he gave us a really good battle. He gave us a really good time, and unfortunately, it was that 2nd stop that undone all his hard work in that race. And meanwhile, there is Igor Ogorodnikov, who, as he finishes in 4th place, he will coast towards the line. He will grab 2nd place in the standings. Del Fante crosses the line. That means he gets 3rd in the standings as well. So he does walk away with a pedal set as well from Cammus. But Ogorodnikov then makes his way in through the final corner. Not quite been the day he wanted. Nevertheless, he will grab that runner-up spot in the Cammus Community Cup. A great season from Igor as he grabs 2nd place in the standings, as we see Walsingham there make his way towards the start-finish line as well. He'll grab 5th place in this race. And Ben Mullard, one of the late stoppers in this race, charging his way through, got a couple of positions to boot as well. He will end this race in 6th place, with Lenson the first of those under lap to their name. He finishes in 9th place. Brophy rounding on the top 10. And here comes Giovanni Pippo. I think he's just about to pip Richardson towards the line. Richardson gave it his all in towards the final couple of laps, but couldn't quite catch Pippo there. So he will finish in 7th place. But that brings us to a conclusion of the 2.5-hour race at the Circuit of the Americas. And it's a fantastic win for Isaac Price. He wins the series with a sensational one-stop that no one else was able to pull off. Dylan, a lot to unpack in that race, but first of all, a huge congratulations to Isaac Price. Commiserations to Igor Ogorodnikov there. He put his heart into that one, but it just wasn't his day today.
I think even bigger commiserations to Del Fante there, but yes, thoroughly deserved to win that championship for Isaac Price. He's the only driver to be a double race winner here, and he's won probably the 2 trickiest races we've had. He won last week in some of the worst conditions I've ever commentated on in that treacherous rain, and then today in a very tough and testing 2.5-hour race where you've really had to push a strategy, and if you can pull something that ballsy off, you really do deserve the race win there. And the championship, it was a championship, and it was a hero's deserving drive there from Isaac Price. What a way to win.
What a way to win. And just harking back to the start of this race as well, where everyone was very cautious. It was a very clean race start. You know, you had a couple of 2 wides in the background, but everyone realised this was not a lap where you could win the race, but it was certainly one you could lose. And we did see that early, well, I guess teamwork. There's no other way to phrase it, from Eric Delfante and from Petrocchini then. But it really started to unravel about 2/3 of the way into the race, but their teamwork really did set a little bit of a stepping stone for what was to be in the final third of the race.
Yeah, it was, and I'm more gutted that we didn't get to see them work it again in the final stint. I mean, Petrocchini and Delfante were a brilliant pairing. Say they are not on the same team, you wouldn't have believed it from the way those two were working together. They had a game plan coming into this. They knew race isn't going to be won until the final sort of 10 minutes where we get down to crunch time. We are going to bring in Eric Delfante for an interview, and I'll let you take that one away, Kieran.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Eric Delfante. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening.
Good news. Eric, well, the first 2/3 of the race were absolutely sublime from you, but it's all started to fall apart at your second stint. I mean, talk us through what happened in that second pit stop.
I crashed in the pit entry and do the last stint with 15-second damage, and I ruined my race, my potential win. But I think it was difficult in every case because Isaac and Matteo are flying in the last stint, especially.
Absolutely. I mean, you and Matteo were working hard there, working almost together in tandem. Was that always from the race plan, or did it just sort of happen that way?
It happening in that way was not planned.
I mean, as well, Eric, with that result, by our calculations anyway, they could be completely wrong, but that does secure yourself a top 3 spot in the championship. So talk us through some of the highs and some of the lows of this season for yourself.
Yes, I'm very happy because in this championship I was very consistent. My only mistake was tonight in this race, but in general I'm super happy of this result.
Absolutely. And have you had any particular highlights going into this season? Is there anything you look back on and think, yes, I did that so well?
I think the Snetterton race, because I didn't expect to do the pole and leading for 15 minutes. So that was the best race for me, I think.
Well, I have to say, Eric, although it might not have been the result you wanted, you have still finished in the top 3 in the Cammus Community Cup. So a huge congratulations to you. And we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon, Eric. In the meantime, go and enjoy yourself.
Yes, thank you so much.
Eric Delfante then finishing 3rd in the standings there, and well, a huge congratulations to him. Dylan, I believe you found Matteo Petrocchini.
Well, hello, Matteo, you there?
Hi.
How are you, mate?
Good. It was a very good race for me because in this championship I tried to be with the best, and this race was amazing for me. I tried to start to stay with Eric, and then for the first, second stint, and then when I returned in the after the second, no, at the start of the final stint, I was in front of Eric, and I tried. I gave everything to took Isaac, but he was better.
Now, here in the commentary box, we was debating a lot on your game plan for how this race was going, especially when you was following Eric in the first half of the race, and then when it came to having to catch Isaac. Can we have an insight into your game plan? What was your mindset and your plan of attack to try and win this race?
At the start, I was thinking about stay with Eric and then go and try to escape from the others that were behind. But then at the final stint, I tried to give everything and to Isaac. I didn't catch him.
Do you think if you'd been given a couple more laps, you would have caught Isaac?
Yes, for sure.
Because there's a difference between catching and then passing. Do you think you would have had the ability to pass him, or do you think that would have been a different kettle of fish to sort of get past Isaac?
No, I think that maybe it will be very difficult to pass him, but I try to catch him, and it didn't go like this.
Well, nonetheless, that was your best result of the season. You can be happy with second place. It is a podium in a very competitive field, so you should be very happy and very proud of yourself for what was a very impressive and amazing drive, at least for us to watch. So go and enjoy your evening. Congratulations on the podium, Matteo Petrocchini.
Thank you.
Oh, do we have Isaac Price coming in for you, Kieran, to go and congratulate and give him the news? Because I'm not sure if he's aware that he's
He is. He is, and I think we can have a chat with him now. Isaac, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Isaac, first of all, congratulations. You are the Cammus Community Cup winner by our calculations. How are you feeling right now?
It's a bit weird, really. I wasn't really, like, going into today, obviously Robbie was leading the championship, and it didn't seem possible to catch him, really. So obviously the goal was just to try and win the race and do as well as we could, and then obviously Robbie wasn't able to make it for whatever reason, and yeah, obviously it kind of came to us as the race went on.
Yeah, I mean, a one-stop strategy, Isaac, where many of the field decided to go two-stop then. You must be pretty confident that the tyres were going to last, the fuel was going to be okay. It's a bold strategy, but it's paid off.
Yeah, my tyres weren't really very happy at the end of either of those stints, but yeah, the BMW obviously has one advantage where it's a little bit better on fuel consumption than the other cars, which meant that it was just about possible to do the one stop. And the Audi on raw pace would have just blown us away, so we had to try and do something a bit different. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised it got as close as it did, really, because I was like 30 seconds ahead at the start of the last stint, and Petrocchini did a mega last stint and got really close, but I was just kind of trying to avoid making any mistakes and just not trip over back markers or anything, because I've already got a penalty once in this season for that, so just wanted to play it safe and bring it home.
And Matteo closing in on you lap after lap in those closing stages. Would you have one eye on the clock in those closing stages there?
Well, I mean, when you've been leading the race and someone's catching you, you kind of do start to watch it a little bit more than you should. But at the end of the day, you can only control the pace that you're doing. And, you know, we were on two completely different strategies that happened to end up pretty close to the end. So you just have to kind of run your own pace and not think too much about what the others are doing, because, you know, it's about getting from A to B as quickly as possible, rather than, you know, racing for position or anything. If he'd have caught me, it would have been a easy pass for him with, you know, 1.5 seconds pace advantage and quicker on the straights. So yeah, just had to try and go as quickly as I could for the whole race and just hope that it was enough.
Well, Isaac, it was enough, and that does make you the Cammus Community Cup winner. So go and enjoy yourself, and we'll leave you to it to celebrate. Isaac Price, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And with Isaac Price is our winner of the Cammus Community Cup. That brings the season to an end. The curtain closer has well and truly closed. Dylan, what a fantastic topsy-turvy race we had, and pretty much the perfect ending to a very competitive season.
What could you ask for? We got action the whole way through. It was absolutely brilliant. I thoroughly loved it. I've enjoyed every minute of this championship, all 5 rounds of what we've done. You've been amazing to commentate besides with, even if it was for 1 round. Thank you, David Christie, as well, for joining me for the previous 4 rounds. And a massive thanks to Cammus for providing all of the prizes that are on offer. We've got the race winners, we've got the community prize. Go and sign that form. You can win a Cammus direct drive base and steering wheel. You do not want to miss out on that. So thank you to Cammus for providing the prizes. Thank you to Steve Proudley, who's been amazing as ever, providing these images we've had. And thank you, Kieran, for joining me in the commentary box.
Oh, thank you very much, Dylan. And yeah, it's we do send our best wishes to David, of course. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it for the finale, but I'm sure he will be watching on and watching back from a great race. Well, that'll do it for us then. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, as Dylan said, it's not too late to enter that community prize draw. Make sure you comment on 2 separate Cammus Community Cup streams and complete the Google form to be entered into that community prize draw, where the stream will be at a later date to draw those prizes and see if you are lucky to win. That about wraps it up from us. So from myself, Kieran McGinley, and Dylan Pick alongside. It's been a pleasure to bring these races to you. We'll hopefully see you again in the near future. Until then, take care of yourselves, have a very good evening, and good night.